We're living on a disk, floating through space, with a tiny sun.
Hey, I'm FTFE and welcome back to the channel that puts Novacek in stupidity's underwear. Welcome to the weekend, everybody. I hope you've all had a decent enough week in the most boring apocalypse that I could ever imagine. I wanted zombies and I got no, stay at home. Brilliant. We're going to have a flat earth debate because, you know, that's always fun and I guess I like to punish myself for past sins, I guess. Tonight is a very, very interesting one. We have with us the best flat earth debater that exists on the planet, Rhetoric. Sir, how are you doing today?
Okay, so quarantine. There is no toilet paper again. I thought we were past this shit already, but apparently we're not. I've been wiping my ass with my hands in the shower over the past few days. Please make the pain go away. Make it stop. Please stop hoarding toilet paper. Please. Enough. Damn.
Oh, there's a lovely way to start. Anyone that was eating when we started streaming is probably not going to be anymore. But we have a new flat earther that's not been on the channel before. You can find him on YouTube with the name Eftupworld, all one word. He's here today to talk to Reds about the shape of the Earth. Eftupworld, how are you doing? Welcome to the channel.
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
How's life on the ISS?
Hard to breathe up here a little bit.
Yeah,
no, I'm just kidding. It's not.
I imagine with all that gas pressure next to a vacuum and everything.
Yeah, it's you know, the smell of space out there is pretty bad. So I'm glad that we're inside here.
So what we're going to do is we're going to let Eftupworld introduce himself, and then we're going to let Reds introduce himself. You know, most you probably know who Reds is. Now, I'm very interested to hear Eftupworld's actual position because he's the first flat earther that I've ever spoken to that thinks space travel is real. NASA and SpaceX do put things in space. The ISS exists. So Eftupworld, over to you. Please introduce yourself. Tell them everybody where we can find you, what you do on YouTube, and what your general position about the shape of the Earth is.
All right. Thank you. So my general position about the shape of the Earth is that it is exactly what we all observe and perceive from inside of our bodies, with our senses that we have. Where you can find me is on my channel, I guess is probably the best place. And it's Eftupworld. And go subscribe because I know that I've been talking about some things and that are, you know, newer topics to me. And there's some things that a lot of people have never considered before. And I don't know how I found myself thinking of some of these things, coming up with some of these things, but there's interesting things happening. We all have to realize that we are in a debate set up right now. We're debating a topic that some people believe one thing and some other people believe another thing. And so all I ask is that you take me seriously. I like to have fun and I like to tease and laugh and joke. So I have no problem with that. But I do have a real point of view. And I'm just going to try to share it with you guys about the Earth being flat and stationary. And also, I know there's some people out there going, is this going to be a Bible thumper? This guy? Uh-oh. Well, yeah, I'm a Bible thumper, but it's not the Bible or God or anything that I want to comment on. It's a story that it happens in the Bible that I'm going to ask Red some questions later and he'll help us possibly understand something that you've never even thought of before. So, yes, I have telescopes, I have cameras, and if you go to my channel, you can see I look at the stars through them a lot, and I have film of the Starlink satellites, like that train of satellites, and what else? I have film of the ISS, all that stuff, even though the flat earthers, they just say space is fake, right? Well, I don't say that. But most globe earthers say heaven is fake. If you get what I'm saying there. Heaven, according to the Bible or according to ancient scriptures, heaven is where God lives. I mean, everyone, when they're a kid, that's the idea, right? God's up in heaven, right? So that's where I've learned something that is amazing to me, and I want to hopefully get that point across, because I think we're in a crazy time. So over to you, Craig.
All right, thank you very much for that. So, Reds, why don't you just take a couple of minutes, introduce yourself, and tell everyone what it is you do on YouTube.
Yes, my name's Rhetoric. I debunk flat Earth. That's basically it. Recently, and I've actually seen this comment a lot, Craig, and you can probably back me up on this. A lot of people are wondering what the hell I'm doing here because they're seeing my videos on your channel. So I just want to give people an update on that. I am now part of this channel. Fight the Flat Earth is Craig and me. We're both here. We're both going to be uploading content to this channel. So that's what's going on. So my most recent video, I debunked Leo, or Level Earth Observer, and his BS that he was spewing about the SR-71 Blackbird. Before that, it was, who was it? Was a Dr. Claudia, the PhD that doesn't know how to do research. You know, but basically, I've done multiple videos on this channel, and the reason is because I have moved to this channel. After speaking to Craig, we both found it to be a worthwhile thing to pursue, to have this be essentially a dual venture. And so that's where we're at right now. So he's going to be uploading content. I'm going to be uploading content. They're both going to be on this channel. That's what I'm doing here. So yeah, but basically what I do, I film rockets, I debunk flat Earth, and I am very nasty about it. I have a bit of a mean streak. The only other thing I can say is there is a rocket launch scheduled for tomorrow, and I will be tracking that. So hopefully it works out. We'll be testing some software for tracking and basically going from there. But with that, back over to you, Fight.
Thank you. There has been some people asking, is Red trapped in my basement? I mean, I've left some exits. I haven't told him where they are. But, you know, he could get out if he really tried. But for now, he's there doing, you know.
There is a tiny clown that says, I want to play a game.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of traps and stuff in the way of him getting out of the basement. And, you know, his family has been searching. But, you know, he can stay there and do as I tell him. Right, so what's going to happen tonight is we're going to let the Flat Earther...
You know, turn on a fan. Jesus Christ, it's stuffy in here.
Oh, God, no. Last time the smell came up here. I want to keep it down there. I mean, I know I didn't give you anywhere to go, but just, you know, be quiet and just get on with work on the next video, okay?
Yeah, of course. You've at least graced me with an internet connection. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to let the Flat Earther, Eftupworld, have 10 minutes to present evidence for the shape of the Earth. And then we'll let Reds have 10 minutes to present evidence for the shape of the Earth. And then we'll just go straight into a back and forth. I'll read any questions that you guys super chat or try to leave me towards the end. I'm sure Eftupworld will be happy to answer any questions that you've got. So let's just do this. Over to you, Eftupworld. 10 minutes. Please present evidence for the shape of the Earth.
All right. Thank you, by the way.
No worries.
This is fun. This is fun for me. A lot of fun. So there's two kinds of evidence, really. This is just my take on things. So I'm no scientist or someone that has like a degree like Craig or something like that. I'm a carpenter. I swing a hammer, I build things, I build decks and I build things and whatever. Not too out of the ordinary. Now, the kind of evidence that I see is everything that every one of us experiences happens from the inside of our body. We have senses and abilities to perceive things in our body, right? That's how we all perceive everything. So there's there's the kind of evidence that we actually perceive, and then there's the kind that that we observe and perceive, like that you could knock on, you know, like you're directly able to see it or observe it. The other kind of evidence is the one that I'm not too keen on, and that's like evidence that's based or connected with like a model or a concept or an idea. And here's an example. The solar system. Okay, we all know what the solar system is. So if we go like just in your mind, imagine the solar system, make a visualization of the solar system. Where are you in that visualization? Where you're looking, where are you seeing that solar system? Well, it's not here on the ground. It's not where you're seeing it. It's a concept, or it's like part of a model, like a heliocentric idea that that Earth and all these planets are going around the sun. And it's not something that we actually perceive or observe with any of our senses. It's more of an idea that has collectively become basically what the world believes. And I do have to talk about the word belief, because the flat earthers who believe that the earth is flat, they believe that, right? It's a belief based on whatever it's based on. And so is the globe. It is also a belief based on whatever, you could say facts, or you can say whatever. I'm not concerned about what it's based on necessarily for what I'm saying here. It's a belief, and the evidence that it is a belief is the flat earthers, or vice versa, that there's an opposing belief. There's someone that believes something different. So that means it is a belief. And if it's based on facts, that means it's based on facts that you believe. So that is important. So I would rather have evidence, and I'll give you an example of this too, evidence that I can perceive and observe of Earth being flat is the stationary part. You can observe it with me right now. And I don't think anybody would even argue with this. The ground is not moving according to my perceptions and my ability to observe and perceive the world around me. It's not moving. And for 43 years, it's just not been moving. It's been sitting there stationary. So to me, that's a very solid kind of evidence. And I know there's many arguments that go against that evidence, like gyroscope or drifting 15 degrees per hour, or whatever these instruments pick up, or like what's the other one, the pendulum. If you swing a pendulum, it appears to turn along with time. To me, that's not evidence of that overpowers my ability to say right now, and to have you agree with me, that the ground does not appear to be moving ever unless there's an earthquake. And then of course, well, would you be able to tell if it was moving if you were on a globe that was spinning once every 24 hours? Would you be able to tell if it was moving? I don't know, maybe not, but I'm not concerned with that. I'm stating the obvious. It's not moving. Now, I know people are cringing when I say that, but that is an example of the evidence that I'm talking about. Where there's people that talk about circumnavigating the globe, and in their mind, they're thinking of going around a globe like this. And when I think about it, I know how if you're up in the air, the only way to really know what direction you're going is that with a compass. And if you're using a compass, that heading can change and you don't necessarily notice it's changing. So I see circumnavigation to be going, like leaving your driveway, taking a left and going around the block and coming back from the opposite direction. Just the same as you would say, you wouldn't notice that curve, that front flip that the plane has to do. You wouldn't notice that over however long it takes to fly, to circumnavigate the globe. You wouldn't notice that. And I say the same thing about the turn. You wouldn't notice the turn either. The circle that you'd be going in with your heading changing. I'm not saying I know all the facts or something, but to me, it's very hard for me to come up with the idea that we're doing a front flip when I ride in a plane. It's not doing a front flip or a partial front flip or anything that I can tell. So again, my favorite kind of evidence is the kind that I can perceive with my senses and my body, basically, because that's where everything that I do is perceived right from here with my eyes, my ears, everything. My nose, like smell. That's another question I have about space. This is kind of off topic, but how do they have smell in space if it's a vacuum? I don't get that part. I mean, I suppose a molecule of odor could be there or something, but this just doesn't make sense to me. And all the astronauts, they always say it smells like, burnt cookies or spent gunpowder or brimstone, like a witch has just been there. That's kind of weird, but that's what Chris Hadfield said. Things like that. Now, there's another thing. In 2017, I went and filmed the solar eclipse. Maybe I'll try to get it in the background here a little bit. I went down to Nebraska because that was where the totality was. Here's a shadow. This is just a time lapse of the shadow going over. I just had a GoPro sitting on the top of my pickup. So that's 2.5 minutes of totality right there. Let's watch it again. I'll get myself out of the way a little bit. So there's the shadow. Notice the edges of it. They're pretty crisp, is what I would call it. They're not very, it was kind of like daylight and then not really dark and then daylight. It wasn't like a long transition. I don't know however many of you have experienced this, but it's pretty cool to go to be under an eclipse. That's just really weird. It was really cool.
You have 2 minutes left.
Thank you. So when I look at the shadow though, and I think most people are aware that it's about 70 miles wide. That poses a real problem to me with a shadow, if you have 2 light sources or 3 light sources or something, you can make a shadow that's smaller of an object. But with 1 light source, the sun, you can try this. I actually did this to scale with a 1-foot inflatable globe, and I made a moon that was the right size. And I actually had to go up on my house and I had to hold a pole. And the globe was down on the ground. I had to get 28 feet away. And when I did it, it was like this big, undefined shadow. It didn't have crisp edges, and it was much bigger than 70 miles would have been. It was like the whole country so, and I know that's, a little toy globe and a toy moon, and I did it a few years ago, but to me, that's, it's not reality to have a small 70-mile wide shadow from a moon that's 2,000
30 seconds.
miles wide. All right. And beyond that, I'm excited to ask Rhetoric some questions about his experiences at rocket launches, because there's something crazy that I think I've found about rocket launches and the noise that they make, and it could be interesting. So I'm going to ask some questions once we get into the open dialogue.
All right, thank you very much, Eftupworld.
Thank you.
Reds, I hope you took lots of notes there.
I did. You want me to respond?
Well, just take 10 minutes to present evidence that the Earth's a globe, and then we'll go into a back and forth.
Okay. So basically, the globe proof is going to be what it was last time. I'm going to start with an equatorial telescope mount. Okay. If you are trying to get long exposure shots of, nebulae or the stars or whatever, you want to use an equatorial mount. An equatorial mount is great because it corrects for field rotation by only having to rotate one axis. However, in order for that to work, you need to align that axis with the axis of the Earth. And guess what? The angle at which you need to align that axis is dependent on how far north you are or how far south you are. If you were to go all the way to the North Pole, you would have to stand the equatorial telescope mount's axis straight up. In order for it to work at the equator, you would have to lay it side to side so that the axis is running along the ground. Now, if you know the distance and the angle at which you need to turn, you would see that it actually gives you a really good value for not only the shape of the Earth, which is round, but also the size of the round Earth. If you were to model an equatorial telescope mount working on a globe, it works perfectly. It only has to rotate one axis in order to stay focused on stars. However, if you try to model that same equatorial telescope mount moving on a flat Earth to track any object in the sky, whether it's attached to a dome or not, that I might add, it will have to move both axes that telescope mount has available to it. It is impossible to keep anything in the view of that telescope while rotating only one axis. This is something that literally anyone can do if you have an equatorial telescope mount and if you're willing to travel. Another thing that we can see is that we actually see curvature on the ground. We've seen it. We've measured it. So I'll give you two examples. The first one is my own personal example, which is the blink test I did on Tampa Bay. So what I did was I had my Nikon P1000, the flat earther camera of choice, set at the north side of the Sunshine Skyway Bridge, and I was pointing it towards Tampa, the actual city center of Tampa. At that location, I was about 24 miles away from the towers. When I took an image of the towers, part of it was obscured by a giant hump of water between me and the towers. Now, when I blinked between that image and a closer picture of the Tampa skyline, you could actually see how much of the towers became hidden underneath the curvature that was present. Another example of curvature that we have seen is Soundly's observation on Lake Pontchartrain. If you were to go to the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway and head to the south side of the causeway, there is a hotel. If you go to like the 7th or 8th floor and then zoom all the way in, you will see that bridge curving with the surface of the Earth, which the surface for the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway is over water. Water that a bunch of flat earthers say always keeps its level. So we have a bridge curving with the Earth, which also shows that water curves with the Earth. We have the Tampa skyline being obscured by a giant hump of water between me and it. And we also have the equatorial telescope mount observation that literally anyone can do. You have a cumulative case for the round Earth. Here's another evidence for the round Earth. Another thing that we have done is we've also taken a look at the sun altitude angle. Well, Soundly did. What Soundly did was very simple. He had multiple people from all over the planet. I believe he had 15 participants, something like that. And he said, what was the altitude angle of the sun at your location at solar noon?
That was
I want to plot the stick lines on a flat Earth and a globe. So after we got the data, or after after Sly Sparkane got the data from all of his participants, we found that the only model that resulted in 0 contradictions was the globe model. If you were to plot those lines on a flat Earth, they lead to contradictory answers. They give you different values for not only where the sun is located, but also the altitude of the sun at the exact same time. If you have a model that gives you contradictory answers, that model is screwing you. It's not a model that can be relied upon. And so the only other thing that I can say is, yes, we do have evidence for the rotation of the Earth. However, I'm going to skip that. I'm actually going to relinquish the rest of my time to the moderator, which is Fight, and we will talk about the rotation in the back and forth. So Fight, back to you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Reds. Right, let's just get straight into it. Eftupworld, feel free to ask any questions about anything that Red said, and we'll just get into a nice back and forth about it.
All right.
Let me get you back on the
Thank
screen.
you. First of all, if you can see, here's my equatorial mount that I made. Well, I have a telescope with an equatorial mount, but I made this one out of an old scope that I had. And I just made a video about it, how the equatorial mount, this is a different topic, but doesn't an equatorial mount prove that the sky is turning? Just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
No,
Reds?
it doesn't.
Then why does it have a side reel motor?
A motion of a rotation for the mount doesn't mean that the sky is what's moving.
Well, if it actually does, because if you
No, it actually doesn't.
Okay, then what?
If I'm on a car, and I have, like, let's say I have a car and I have a potted plant, and I want to follow the potted plant as it passes the car. I can follow the potted plant with a rotational axis of the tripod or whatever mount that is used to hold the camera. Now, if I drive the car past the potted plant, I would rotate the camera from front to back as I pass the plant. However, if I have the car stationary and I have someone get out of the car and run with the plant from front to back, I would rotate that same axis. Rotational axis does not indicate what is actually moving, whether it's the car or the plant, just like it doesn't indicate what's moving between the ground and the sky.
Okay, I totally understand what you're saying there. You're talking about what's moving relative to what, right? Basically, you're saying it doesn't determine that. But
Yeah,
my point is that I would have to, have an argument with that and say that it actually does prove, because everything that happens is relative to you, Reds. Everything you observe is relative to you. So in the image behind me, are the stars moving or not?
I would also ask, why is this relevant?
Because we live on the earth.
Yeah, but we're talking about the shape of the earth. Take a ball.
Yeah.
Take a ball, put it on the table.
Hold on, let's not talk about a ball though.
No. Hang on. Hear me out.
Okay.
Take a ball, put it on the table. Is it moving? No. Has it stopped being a ball? No. So why is the motion of the object relevant to the shape of that object? I don't care if for this debate, I don't care if the earth is moving, stationary, whatever. I only care about its shape. The observation that you are showing in your background does not indicate whether or not the earth is moving or not moving. It's actually irrelevant to the discussion when we're talking about the shape.
So the equatorial mount you have with your scope on it wouldn't matter if it had a motor on it or not, is what you're saying.
What matters is what it needs to rotate in order to maintain an object within its viewfinder. I can follow an object in the sky with only one axis of rotation. That is impossible to replicate on any flat earth model that has ever been presented, ever.
Well, and I can agree with that. I don't believe that there's any kind of flat earth model that's accurate. I don't think we understand.
No, just a flat earth in general. You cannot make an equatorial mount work with the flat earth, period. End of discussion. That is it.
But I do.
No, you don't.
Well, the equatorial mount works whether the ground is whatever shape that it actually is, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whether it's a globe or it's flat.
The equatorial mount will work. I'm not talking about the functionality of the mount itself. I'm talking about its ability by functioning to keep an object in its viewfinder. If you were to model any flat earth, any sky motion, anything like that whatsoever, you will not be able to keep an object within the viewfinder, period.
Well, I do. And here's what I'm saying. the debate of the flat or the globe is not a factor in whether an equatorial mount works or not, because the sky above my house, it turns. I'm at Minnesota, so I built mine at 45 degrees, or I set mine at 45 degrees, and it follows whatever star I put it on. It's the ecliptic is what it's going on the ecliptic, right?
Yeah, I don't deny that follows the star, but that's because you're observing from a curved surface.
It has nothing to do with the surface.
Yes, it does actually. And in fact, this has actually been done before, where someone has actually modeled it. What I will do is I will send it to Fight the Flat Earth right now so we can watch it together.
Okay.
We actually modeled this, and in modeling this, it shows that the flat Earth model provides a contradiction when it comes to equatorial telescope mounts.
We shouldn't really talk about
reality. In reality, equatorial mounts work. On the flat Earth, they wouldn't work. Therefore, we have a contradiction.
They do work. The sky turns. You point something at the sky, no matter where you are, you can get it to work.
Are you seeing what Fight is sharing right now?
How do I get that page bigger? I don't have the. Maybe I gotta. Whoops. Oh, I don't know what I gotta do.
Hold on, let me see if I can change the zoom setting.
Oh, there we go. I can see it now.
Okay, right. Get it back.
Can you replay that for us, please?
Yeah, from the beginning. Here we go.
All right. Yeah. Please start from the. Okay, there we go. Yeah. Just play it from the beginning. Okay, so this is an object that it's tracking in the sky. Okay. So see how it's rotating on both axes in order to maintain sight of that object?
Well,
so this is one axis, and here's the other axis.
Yeah.
It has to rotate both axes in order to keep that object in the frame. Fight, can you do me a favor and speed ahead real quick to the globe example?
Can I give a quick thought on that?
And go to 2 minutes if you can. 2 minutes, please.
Okay,
I'm just wondering, what do you think the sky is that it, like, you know, how in the image behind me here, that it appears to be turning in a circle around Polaris there. Why would that be any different if it was a flat Earth or a globe Earth? Because your telescope's just sitting on one spot stationary on the Earth, and you have it going on an axis of rotation pointed towards the axis of rotation you see in the sky. That's what an equatorial mount is.
An equatorial mount takes into account the fact that the Earth has an axis. You can't have an axis unless
it's spinning in a circle. It's just a simple rotation.
Yep.
Let me finish.
Let Reds get through his point for a sec.
Sorry.
Let me finish. The equatorial mount takes into account the fact that the Earth has an axis, and you can't have an axis with two celestial poles unless you're dealing with a sphere. And that's the point. The sky.
If you know everything about the sky.
Hang on. The sky on any flat Earth model doesn't match the sky we actually see in reality.
Great. I'm not concerned about a flat Earth model. I don't think there is a flat Earth model that works.
Oh, you and I can agree there. But what I'm saying is the reason why there's no flat Earth model is because it is impossible for one to exist in the first place. This is a problem of geometry. It is geometrically impossible to make an equatorial mount work on a flat Earth. Period. Full stop.
Okay. We'll leave that. Why don't we leave that one? Because I'm in disagreement. Because I think that in order to film something that's doing a circle in the sky, you point your equatorial mount, the base of it, you point that towards the center of that circle, and it's going to follow whatever that is at wherever you point it. It doesn't matter if it's curved or a globe. That's my thoughts. But I don't want to spend the whole time talking about an equatorial mount either.
You can disagree. I'm just letting you know that you're wrong, and I challenge you. Try to model this out for yourself. Make an equatorial mount work on any flat Earth model that you can possibly come up with. The very moment you include a flat surface, it won't work.
I don't think there's a model. The model that I that is closest to a model is when I walk out the front door. That's the model. You know what I'm
Neat.
saying? I don't put a model on a piece of paper and like a map and say, oh, I can map out my backyard. Now I know everything about it. We have
I'm saying
maps and
is-
we've done this, but
What
go
I'm
ahead.
saying is very simple. Once you include a flat surface, you already screwed the pooch.
No, I disagree.
Okay.
The sky is, here's another thing. You're contradictory in one way here. You're saying that the stars aren't turning, or you're saying they are turning?
I said it's irrelevant whether we are the ones moving or the stars are. It is irrelevant to the shape of the Earth. A sphere that is rotating or a sphere being rotated around will have an axis leading to two celestial
Yes.
poles.
Yes. Same with a flat plane. If something's going around above it, it's going to have. Now, the two celestial poles, that I can't say that I understand that, because there is definitely a center of rotation in the southern hemisphere that's the opposite direction of what's behind me right here.
You can't have two celestial poles on a flat Earth.
If you
Period.
think you understand everything about the sky, right? Like,
Are you saying it's magic?
No, not magic. I think that it's much more than just a physical realm, and I can go over some of that. I do have some questions about the Falcon 9 and Dragon and stuff. If you want to talk about that, I'd be interested in talking about that.
Sure. Fight, lead us into the next subject.
Right. So, what else was the evidence that you presented, Reds? You presented Soundly's observation about
Curvature.
Soundly's
Lake
observation of Lake
Pontchartrain.
Pontchartrain, yes.
Which also coincides with your observations on Tampa Bay with the blink test.
Yes, and I will also point out that this observation was also virtually modeled with the quote assumed shape of the Earth, and it matched perfectly.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Is that,
it was an absolutely perfect match.
Is that about, what is that, 24 miles or something, the distance of the bridge or whatever?
Lake Pontchartrain Causeway, it's
20,
tens of miles,
24 or something like that, is it?
something like that.
Okay.
I can get the exact value for you.
No, I don't need it. I just, when I look at that, I picture myself standing at the ocean looking left to right. And because actually you're the one that has some good footage.
23.83 miles.
Okay. You have some footage that you took a long time ago of a sailboat going what appears to be going down a curve, and you just start seeing only the sail, and it gets, do you know which video I'm talking about?
Observations repeated.
That is, to me, that's what, about 5 miles away or something, that sailboat starts disappearing like that, or 3
I
miles
couldn't tell
away.
you the exact distance, so
But
I'm not going to
it's a
assume.
little bit of a distance. And to me, when I'm looking, if I look to my left and I see a sailboat on the horizon, and I look to my right and I see a sailboat on the horizon, they're way farther apart from each other. So if you had a camera on one of those sailboats pointed towards the other sailboat, you're going to see the same thing, right?
No, you're dealing with something called compressed perspective. Compressed
Yeah,
perspective.
so if you're looking the same distance, you're going to see the same thing, right?
You only have a limited field of view, though, in your vision at a time. What I believe you're trying to go for is I should see curves side to side. No, you shouldn't.
No, it's not that, but it's sort of that. That's sort of what I'm getting at, but not.
Yeah, I know that's where you're getting at. I'm just stopping.
No, what
that
I'm
train of
asking
thought
you
before go too far.
is how is the water a straight line between those two boats? And yet,
it's not.
No, it is, but I'm saying visually, you can put a straight edge to it. And what I'm saying is, how is it that those boats aren't seeing the full boat if there's a line of sight between them?
Wait, what?
If
are we assuming a line of sight between the boats, or are we assuming a line of sight from you to the boat?
Either one, but I'm speaking of the boat to the boat.
I need to know which one you're going for, because if you're talking about you and you're zooming into it with a camera, let's say, when you zoom in on it, you have a limited field of view to work with, which means you're only seeing a small fraction of the curve that actually exists. And any curve,
okay. So did you hear what I said?
That you zoom into enough will eventually look flat, but looks can be deceiving.
so you didn't hear what I said, boat to boat. Okay. If you had a camera on the boat and you're however many 5 miles away or whatever, you're going to see the boat start disappearing over a curve, right?
You will see it disappear bottom up and then eventually out of sight.
Yes. And so what I'm saying is, if you're standing back and looking at that, there's a line of sight clear between those two boats, is what I'm saying. And they're not seeing each other fully because of whatever refraction and whatever's going on with the atmosphere. So to me,
I'm sorry, where are we getting at now?
Okay, if you
lost
are
me a little bit there.
If there's two boats in the ocean and they're 5 miles apart from each other, little sailboats, you're in one, I'm in the other, okay? We're trying to point our camera towards each other and see the boats. And when we look through the camera, we're seeing not the whole boat. We're seeing part of the bottom of the boat's missing, right?
Yeah,
And
no, the part of the boat, it has disappeared behind a hump of water.
Or behind waves or whatever is in the way, right? Whatever is between the two boats.
Well,
what I'm saying.
Well, with my towers, that wave would have to be 300 feet tall.
Okay, that I was talking about a couple boats. I was trying to explain something so that you could understand what I'm trying to say.
All right.
Okay, finish your point.
All I'm saying is that there's a straight line of sight between those two boats that gives the idea from the side that there's nothing blocking anything from seeing those two boats. I'm saying that the bridge on that Pontchartrain picture or whatever, that is an illusion, an optical illusion that's being caused. I don't know what it's being caused by, but because left to right, I can see 24 miles and I can draw a straight line across that 24 miles.
No, you can't draw a straight line.
Have you ever been to the ocean? I know you have.
Yeah, I'm from Florida.
Yeah, I know. What I'm saying is that I challenge you to go out with a straight edge and set it up on a tripod and look between some boats, and you'll see you'll understand what I'm getting at. I'm not saying that I have some kind of crazy evidence or something. I'm just saying it's a concept that I've tried to look for myself, and it's just a straight line every time I look. And that's like hundreds of miles if you look left to right, you know. I'm not saying just in one point. What's that?
Nothing. This is an example of compressed perspective, and it says here, I'll read it to you because the words aren't coming through. People have asked why the curve is so apparent in one direction but not in the other. The answer is compressed perspective. If you look at it from one side, the black pawn pieces will look like they're part of a straight line, but if you look along the path of the other pawn pieces, it's a lot more, it looks more curved, it's more pronounced. That's because you're seeing more of the curve in that frame of, or in that field of view. So if you're trying to see it from side to side, you need a much larger frame of view than what is actually possible when you're zooming in. So yeah, it may look flat looking side to side. That doesn't mean it is flat. Compressed perspective gives you a false sense of flatness.
Okay. So can I ask you some questions that I actually wanted to ask about the Falcon 9 and stuff? And there's a reason. Sure. They're very simple questions. It's not like, they're not trick questions or anything. They're just, I just want to, because I know you know these things.
Before we move on, could we just get your thoughts on what Reds was saying about the compressed perspective?
I think that if I'm at the equator and I look to the north trying to see the North Star, it's going to be really hard. It's going to be right on the horizon. And I think if you drive north, I don't know how far, but to Minnesota, it's going to be coming up above the horizon as you're going north. I think you guys agree with that, right?
Yeah. Because
anything moving away from you in the sky, it appears to go down. And that's what I think that this is, that would be my comment about this. I don't know if it's called perspective or what it's called, but as something is going away from you, it's going to be going down. It's going to appear to go down like the sun. It's going to appear to go down into the ground, because between you and the sun, there is something in between. Like there's a mountain somewhere that's going to block you from seeing it. So it's going to appear no matter where you are.
So just to clarify your point there, you think that the further things go away from you, they will automatically look like they are going down, which is why you see the curve here.
Well, I guess I can't say that that's why we see the curve here. I think I see this to be an optical illusion caused probably by the water. I don't know. I'm not saying I have like a, rebuttal for it or something. I just
let's just accept you don't have a rebuttal and move on to the next one.
That works.
Okay.
That works.
Right. So you wanted to ask Red some questions about rockets.
Falcon
now,
9.
Just to clarify your position on space travel here. Obviously, you think the Earth is flat, but you also think that NASA and SpaceX and all the other agencies actually put things in space, right?
Yeah, they
so
put
you
things
think
up there.
That space is real. That there is a comparative vacuum up there.
Well, I don't think I myself think that the vacuum is probably the best description for what we experience going up there, but I don't think that is a vacuum of outer space. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't think that there's a big universe other than where we have sent.
But the ISS is up there in an area of pressure that is like
254 miles up.
Right, cool. Right,
254 miles up.
Where there's practically zero atmosphere, right? And that's what
almost nothing, yeah. Basically nothing, yeah.
Right, okay.
So
right,
as far as like
okay,
and I'll just explain really quick. That brings up the topic, well, how does the ISS stay up there, right? If we're over a flat Earth, what keeps it up there? And that's where hopefully we get into this a little bit. I believe in a spiritual realm called heaven. Okay. Some people are going to call it space. The part that we call space, I call that darkness. It's a realm of darkness. And I know people might not like this so much, but I only learned this because of the Falcon 9. And it's that's why I want to ask Red some questions. And they're not trick questions or anything. They're simple questions that probably everyone knows the answer for. Except for the first one. This one actually might not know this one, but doesn't matter if you know it or not. It's I gotta ask it. How many Dragon version 1 capsules did SpaceX manufacture for resupplying the space station? Do you know that number?
No. 4 or 5, something like that.
10. Just so you know, it's 10. And there's a reason why I asked that, but we'll get back to that. Are they conical shaped? Kind of like a Dots candy, or is it shaped like that?
You mean shaped
the Dragon capsule?
Like a space capsule is usually shaped? Yeah.
Yeah, like almost everything but the shuttle that's ever been in space that's come back. It's shaped kind of like
a similar shape to the Soyuz, has a similar shape to the Starliner, has a similar shape to Orion. Yeah, has a similar shape.
Okay, cool. And now here's one for you. When you film the launch, which by the way, you guys have some awesome stuff going on with that software and the equipment. It's pretty cool. But when you're filming that, does the rocket and does the Falcon 9 and Dragon, do they go up out of the Earth? I know these are obvious questions, but I'm just asking you for a reason that I'll explain. Does it go up out of the Earth?
I don't know exactly what you mean. Are you talking about?
Does it go from the ground up into the sky and leave the Earth?
Up, no.
Yeah. Well, no, it doesn't. No, it goes parallel after a while. But what I'm saying, does it launch?
Yeah.
Does it launch and then does it leave the Earth basically?
Uh-huh.
And that's called orbit insertion, right? Basically.
There's multiple stages to a launch. So.
Yes, and that's actually the next question was, does it separate from the dragon, the Falcon 9, does it separate from the dragon and then fly back and land back on the Earth again?
The first stage does. The second stage does not.
Yeah. And the Dragon capsule continues on to eventually meet up with the station, right?
Correct. After being pushed some more by the second stage.
Yep. A lot more. Yeah.
Yes.
And then, so as it comes back down, the booster, the first stage, as it comes back down, which I know you've filmed this lots of times, you've seen it yourself and experienced it. I've never have, and I would like, it would be something pretty cool to go and see. How does it arrest its velocity so that it doesn't just crash into the Earth?
2 ways. With a entry burn, so it slams on the brakes by firing its rockets retrograde, aerodynamic drag, and then a landing burn.
Yep. Okay. And what is a landing burn? Just very general. What is a landing burn? It's
the final burn that you will deploy the landing legs at, and it's the final burn where you eventually touch down. And then as soon as you touch down, the landing burn terminates, and boom, you landed a first stage.
And you're up about what, $30 million than you would have been, right? Something like that. Well, maybe not that much, maybe 20. Who knows? But so it uses, what does it use to do the boost back burns? It uses rocket engines, right? Called Merlin. What are they called? Merlin something.
Merlin 1Ds, yes.
Merlin 1Ds. And these engines, they put, do you know how much thrust they put out each one? There's 9 of them on the Falcon 9. I don't know the numbers, but they put out, they lift a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if we were going to compare it to a car with horsepower, it doesn't really have a category that compares with the car, right? It's a big amount of thrust. And the reason why I'm asking that is that fire?
You mean the flames and badassery coming out the ass end of the rocket?
Yeah. The thrust, basically. That's fire, right?
It's expelled superheated gas at supersonic speeds.
And it's combusted, right?
Yeah. It's using fuel. When that fuel explodes, it spits out a lot of fire and badassery out the ass end, and it spits it out at such a high velocity that causes the rockets to launch, because every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
Yep, and it's loud, right?
Yeah.
Does it shake the whole sky, or like the whole place? Does it shake everything?
You can feel a rumble, yes.
Cool. And so here's why I'm asking all these questions. You're probably like, what are you asking all this stuff for? This is just one of the things that I learned from a book. And it was a book that was written 2,000 years ago. Now I know that I'll say, oh no, he's just going to go to the Bible. No, that's not what I'm not really even talking about God or anything like that. I'm simply talking about how is there a guy, because I don't think anybody disputes that there was people alive 2,000 years ago. How does some guy 2,000 years ago answer all the questions like almost how Red did? And what I mean, I can read it for you, or I can just say it. In Revelation 13, in the Bible, at the end of the Bible, the last book, there is John, this guy that wrote this book. He said that he saw a beast, he called it, and it was coming up out of the earth, and it had 2 horns like a lamb, and it spake as a dragon. Okay, now you guys can understand how I would see, okay, dragon, it spoke like a dragon. 2-stage rocket, 2 horns, I don't know. But really 2 verses later is when there's something kind of crazy that me and Red already talked about. Red's witnessed this before. I haven't, but a lot of people have. It says that he does great wonders, and he makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. Do you think that's like too far to be a coincidence? I mean, is that a coincidence that John said he saw this thing coming up out of the earth? And then
the fuck did you just say?
Yeah.
I'm kind of struck at the fact that you made that leap. I think Evil Knievel wouldn't have made that leap. Wow.
Okay. So there's a dragon.
That's reaching right there is what that is.
Can
So
I just
you think
clarify
that the
position?
Bible had a prophecy about the Falcon 9?
9.
That's what I think it is. And
Why not the
there's a lot
Saturn
more.
5?
Oh yeah. What's that?
Why not the V2? Why
Probably-
not the Atlas?
Probably because
Why not the Vulcan?
Sputnik.
Why not the Delta?
Because none of those landed.
Why not the Soyuz? Why
of
not
those
the
landed.
Vega? Why not the Arian?
None of those landed.
It's like
None of them made fire come back down. I'm
none
just
of them
saying.
made when you launch a rocket, the fire is always shooting down.
Yeah. But in the verse, it came up out of the earth and then it made fire come back down from heaven. So
All rockets fire downward. I mean, I don't know what more you're. I don't know what that is reaching right there. That is
listen.
reaching.
Listen.
Okay. So let me go ahead and say this. Let's say, fine, God exists, and he foretold the arrival of a beautiful baby that would save us from evil all over the world. And this baby was Elon Musk, and he would grow up to make the most badass rockets ever. Fine. What does this have to do with the shape of the earth?
Well, it has a lot to do with the shape of the earth, because in that story, that story in that revelation, that's the story of the kingdom that the kingdom of heaven coming down to the earth. It's called New Jerusalem, or the Holy City, or whatever.
Am I legitimately supposed to take this argument seriously? Because I don't.
No, that's fine. You don't have to. But what I'm asking you is, do you think that it's a coincidence that this story, and obviously you do think it's either a coincidence or ridiculous or whatever.
I think it's a leap. I don't think it's a coincidence. I think you're just making a leap and you're trying to find things that either already confirm this, because here's the thing. Stories and the vagaries that are within the Bible can be twisted to match anything. Why do you think there's been so many failed doomsday prophecies in the past? Is because
how many dragons
they saw messages in shit that they thought were foretold by the Bible, and it would be a sign of the end times. But every single one of them has been wrong. Claudia got 19 of them wrong, or something like that.
But how about how many of them talk about a dragon? And the
dragon is just a name. It's not an actual dragon. And by the way, the dragon is not what makes the fire and the badassery. It's a falcon.
No, the Falcon 9
is
makes
what makes the falcon.
The Falcon 9 lifts the
not
dragon into orbit.
But the
dragon stays in orbit. The Falcon 9 comes back down and makes the fire come back down.
But the falcon is not the dragon. They're two separate things. So
did you hear what I just said, Reds? You're not listening to what I'm saying. I just said that. The dragon is launched on top of the Falcon 9 rocket, right? And the dragon continues on to go to the space station, and the Falcon 9 does a boost back burn, and then it does an entry burn, and then it does a landing burn, and it lands back on the Earth. The Falcon 9 booster, right?
Yeah, Falcon 9 booster. What you're saying that the Bible says not only doesn't match, but is a total reach.
It does match. He just said it was a beast. I think he didn't know what it was, but he said it was a beast coming up out of the earth.
It's not a beast. It's a piece of machinery.
Yeah, exactly. It's a piece of machinery.
It's not a beast. It's not a living being.
It's autonomous, right?
Does that mean it's alive?
To someone 2,000 years ago, it might.
I don't care about what people are saying 2,000 years ago.
No, I know.
I think even a person 2,000 years ago would be able to walk up to this thing, knock on the side of it, goes, "Oh yeah, that's metal. That ain't alive."
Well, I don't think that he was saying it was certainly alive. I think he was calling it a beast.
I'm pretty sure that is assumed to be a case when you use the word beast and dragons and stuff like that. That they are.
Well, what is a dragon? Thing. There's only one dragon.
Capsule. The dragon from SpaceX is a space capsule. It's not a living thing. What are we talking about right now? What just happened?
Well, I'm just asking you, he probably should have wrote that it was a space capsule, right?
He could write whatever the hell he wants. I'm not going to trust the guy from 2,000 years ago to feed me correct information about what we know in the modern era. We have
No,
the
I
internet.
understand
He didn't
that.
have Google.
The idea that I'm not trying to say that I guess what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to open the conversation to something without because it always gets cut off the way that you're kind of doing it. And the reason why I think I don't want that to happen is because there's something here to understand. And there's a lot of people that would understand it, including you, if you gave it a second and just to think about it.
I thought about it. This is
What?
I've given you a chance. I was trying to see where you were going with this. I thought we were going to talk about something legitimate, something that, I don't know, has something to do with the shape of the earth. Instead, we didn't get that. We're not talking about geometry. We're talking about fables in the Bible and what we can shoehorn in to make it fit. I don't care about the subject.
That's fine, but it is a certain kind of evidence.
No, it's
I'm not saying it's I'm not saying it's physical evidence or that it's visual
evidence at all. It's hearsay. Yeah. What you're feeding me is hearsay.
What about when Enoch?
Hold on. Right. I feel like we should get back to talking about physical evidence.
Okay.
The Bible is such a subjective thing that it can mean so many different things, and I don't think using that as evidence in a scientific debate is a good idea. And until somebody can show me a talking donkey, a talking snake, and a talking burning bush, I really don't have to take anything from the Bible seriously, right?
No, I don't think anyone does. It's a personal choice.
Reds has gone over a couple of things that he presented as evidence. You know, the obvious curvature that was shown, and a couple of other things. So, what was the evidence that you suggested that showed the Earth was flat? We can go over some of your evidence now, if that's all right.
Okay, let me share a video in the background here. This is oops, that's not the one I'm looking for. There, that's a little bit better of a view. Let me get myself out of the way. Okay, this is a lake that I live by. It's called Mille Lacs Lake, and there's a house there you can see in the image, and that house is 9.5 miles from the camera, and the camera is 25 feet above the surface of the ice or the water. And I don't know, you guys can figure out the math if you want to, but I think when I looked into it, there was supposed to be a horizon between us and that house, like at about 8 miles or something, maybe a little bit less than 8 miles, 7 miles or something. And when I drive, see that truck right there is driving on the ice road, and that video, sorry. Oops, now I'm having a hard time finding my, oh, there we go. This video here it's not as clear, but it's the same thing. And you'll be able to see a car driving on the road, like delivering the mail or something. And so those 4 trees right there, they're growing like right out of the shore bank, like almost right out of the water. And I've been over there, and that's just that's just a small proof there. I'll play this in the background. This is that lake. I'm looking from the same point, but it's like up to, I think it's like 19.2 miles is the farthest point on the lake. But there's like, here, let me pause it right there. Okay. This is a Grand Casino in Mille Lacs, up on the right-hand side there, that building. And if you look down, like that house right there, well, the casino is like 12.5 miles from the camera. And it's like you see the house on the shore right there to the left of that. I'll just keep playing it a little bit. It's when I go up there, the only time that there's any problem seeing the other side of the lake is when it's windy. When it's windy out, it looks like there's a ton of curvature. That's what it looks like. Like that water tower would probably not even be visible if it was windy out. And there's waves on the lake. That's the one thing I noticed. That radio communication tower, that's 15 miles from the camera. And it's not there's not much elevation anywhere around this lake. You can check it out on Google or whatever, but it's not like a hilly or mountainy area. And that right there, like that's Onamia, I think. That water tower, that's like 14 miles away. And the water tower is, I think, a quarter mile away from the shore. So the problem I'm having with your idea of the curvature is that I only see pictures like that Pontchartrain one where it appears to be curving, where the bridge appears to be curving. I don't think that that's any kind of evidence for curvature myself, because there's so many other videos of long distances that don't show any curvature. I'm looking to find one other video. Okay, this is looking across the lake. My camera is actually touching the water. It's the same lake. I'm at the landing just north of where I was before, but I had my camera right down in the water. And I just don't think that, like, you know, with the curvature math, however you want to do it. I mean, like Pythagorean theorem is like the old fashioned way to do it. If you were gonna, I think, and I'm not saying I'm a mathematician or something, but I don't think that any of these trees that are 40, 50 feet high, I don't think they would even be visible from literally touching the water, looking 15 miles. Which if you just look, and I know it's not the clearest video and everything because we're on a Zoom call and everything, but
all right, so what you said, look, okay, let's just start with the house. You said looking at the house, you were 25 feet in the air looking 9 miles away.
Or, well, yes, 9.5 miles, yes, correct.
Okay, that would put the target hidden height at only 5 feet.
Yeah, I know. It shouldn't be much at all.
And by the way, houses are usually built a little bit above any sort of water line with any sort of lake, and they're built on a foundation, which also raises it up by a few inches. So I see no contradiction with the house at all, actually.
Okay, but my point there was a horizon. There should be a horizon before the house. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, there shouldn't. The house is going to be above
there should, if you just told me that there was 5 feet of target hidden height. So that would mean there's a horizon before the house.
The house isn't going to be hidden by any horizon.
No, I don't think the house is. I don't think the house is going to be hidden. I didn't say.
All right, so what are we talking about again?
Let me go back to the video. What I'm trying to ask or pointing out is that there's no horizon on the water anywhere. That truck's on the ice road, so you can see how high the ice road is. And what I'm getting at is where, if there's target hidden height of 5 feet or whatever, that means that there is a horizon to make that target hidden height. Okay. I think you know that. You understand that.
How do you know that you're not looking at a horizon that's right at the point where the house and the ground meet? How do you know that's not a horizon?
The truck driving by is a good indication of that.
I'm talking about behind the truck.
Where the trees are coming out of the water?
No, behind that.
That's the road.
Behind the road that the truck is on, behind where the trees are, behind all of that.
Are you saying like where the house is, or behind that big kind of thing of trees behind the house?
Yeah, because I see two things wrong with your assertion here.
Okay.
One, you're assuming that there is no refraction going on in the image, which.
No, I'm not assuming that.
Well,
you can see the refraction in the image.
And yeah, well, if there is refraction in the image, then the refraction would obviously push the horizon back. It has the capability of doing that. We've seen that before. But not only that, but we also are talking about the house in general, and the house in general would be completely within view.
I agree.
So if
It
you
would.
also have an uptick in the land, that's also going to artificially push back the horizon because the topography of the land is not
Oh.
perfectly flat. This looks like, honestly,
I should
looks like
explain.
honestly-
Maybe I didn't explain. This is all frozen water. This is a lake that we're looking at. There's no like.
Do you mind
land.
telling
It's
us
all
what
just
lake
water.
that is?
Mille Lacs Lake in Minnesota. It's like one of the biggest lakes.
Mille
North
Lacs Lake in
Minneapolis.
Minnesota.
Yeah, north of Minneapolis, probably 2 hours.
Yeah, I saw. I think Paul Lovett and a couple others in the chat were just asking for the location of the lake.
Okay.
So, thank you for that.
So
Go ahead, Reds.
can I respond to some things too?
Yes, go for
Yeah,
it.
go ahead.
Okay. I don't want to deviate from this, but I feel like I must because someone called me out on it. So I want to go ahead and say, yes, I did take notes. So let me go ahead and just shoot these down real quick. Sensory perception is flawed. You can feel like you're moving when you're not actually moving. You can get woozy. You can lose your balance. People lose their balance on solid ground all the time. You can also feel like you're falling when you're laying in bed. It wakes a ton of people up. Many people have experienced it. Your sensory perception is flawed. So if you're judging things based solely on your eyes, based solely on just your senses, really, you're using a flawed standard inch per se. I can go ahead and guess how far I am from, oh, those trees out my window. But I'm not going to be as accurate as one of those roly rulers or something like that. I'm not going to be as accurate, figuring out, oh, how far am I from my childhood home? I can guess, I can get a rough approximation, but I'm not going to be as accurate as, oh, I don't know, driving there and taking, and counting the odometer so I know how far, what's the driving distance from here to my childhood home, or using Google Maps. It'll give me a much more accurate answer than what I could possibly give you with just my perception alone. The same exact way that we can't tell distances all that accurate, we also can't tell movement all that accurately because we don't feel movement. We feel acceleration. Since we are at a constant rate, the Earth isn't speeding up and slowing down abruptly. It's spinning at a constant rate of one rotation every 24 hours. We're not going to feel that movement because we don't feel movement. We feel a change in acceleration. Unless there is a change in acceleration, you're not going to feel anything. So again, relying on your perception alone to even figure out if the Earth is moving or not is a flawed approach. That's why we have tools and equipment like ring laser gyros, which Bob was very, very generous in providing his services on demonstrating. Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Another thing is that
Thanks, Bob.
The globe is not a belief. You called it a belief. The globe is a conclusion based on the evidence that has been gathered. And when I say evidence, I don't mean stuff that we gathered from NASA. I'm not saying stuff that we gathered from SpaceX or ULA or any other entity like that. We have all gone out, all of us in this little community, Fight the Flat Earth, me, Sly Sparkane, Astronomy Live, we all went out. We've all went out and did our own observations. We did our own measurements, and we were forced to come to a conclusion based on the information that we have gathered. Based on what we've been able to see so far, the only model that results in zero contradiction is the round Earth model. That's not a belief, that is a conclusion. Could that conclusion be wrong? Absolutely. But it is up to you to give us something to chew on that demonstrates that is wrong. If you have a better model that relies on a flat Earth, give us something that explains what we are seeing better than what already fits with the observations, which is the globe Earth model. And finally, the heliocentrism versus geocentrism thing, again, it's irrelevant to the shape of the Earth. If you must know, heliocentrism is based off of observations and measurements over the centuries, but let's hypothetically say that the Earth is stationary. That again does not mean that the Earth is flat, because you can have a ball, you can swing it around, it will still be a ball. It's just a ball that's being swung around. If you have a ball that's stationary, it's still a ball. It's just a stationary ball. So the motion of the Earth, the motion of our solar system is irrelevant to the shape of the Earth itself. Those are all the points that I believe you brought up. I was taking notes as best I could, but there you go.
Let me comment on the last thing you were saying. The motion of the Earth. What was how you worded it? The last thing you
The
said.
motion of the Earth is irrelevant to the shape of the Earth.
Okay. And I would have to, I would agree with that. If we're talking, it's like saying the sky is irrelevant if we're talking about the flat ground or if the shape of the ground there, but it does tie into our understanding. So in what you call a model of the globe, it's spinning once every 23 hours and 56 minutes, right?
Something like that.
Yeah. So that is part of, if that, I think myself that that's not to be left out of this debate or conversation, because it is a factor in what you are arguing for, right?
It doesn't necessarily need to be left out. If you want, we can talk about Bob Nodell and how he was able to measure it himself, or how a lot of people can measure it themselves with a pendulum.
And that's one of the things that I acknowledge all the drift on a gyroscope, and I acknowledge all that, but I just don't think that it's from what you think it's from.
Then what is it from?
I think it's from the sky moving, or I can't explain what it's from, but I do know that the ground and like you were saying, our perceptions are flawed, or however you worded that. I can agree with that. I mean, everybody makes bad judgment at some point in their, how far away is that? If you've ever stood close to a chain link fence, sometimes you get some weird focus thing going and you're like, how far away is that fence? Yes, there's things that we can perceive wrong, but the very basic things that I'm talking about would be the gyroscope against our own senses. Do you know what I'm saying? And if we have a little machine that tells us something, I'm not going to listen to that over my own observations that I make from my perception headquarters, which is my body. Do you know what I'm saying?
If you have a standard weight, like let's say 1 kilogram,
Mm-hmm.
and you were to put that weight on a scale at the North Pole, it would weigh a certain amount. If you were to take that same weight with that same scale, not recalibrated, just same weight, same scale as it was, and go to the equator and weigh it again,
You'll get a different measurement.
You would get 0.3% difference. It would be less.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were to calculate how much less it should weigh with the round Earth model that's spinning at the
it would be right on.
It would be right on. So
I agree.
We don't just have the equatorial mount observation. We don't just have the gyroscope observation. We don't just have the pendulum observation, but we also have the weight observation. All of it.
Yeah.
All of it starts focusing in on a single answer.
Yep.
So if it's all focusing in on a single answer, then we start applying Occam's razor. What answer can I accept with the least number of assumptions?
What about the picture behind me again, the star trails? How are we supposed to ignore that? In order to take a picture of star trails with the sky turning like that, your camera can't be moving. Your camera has to be in one spot. If you want to do long exposure, like astrophotography, you're going to have an equatorial mount and you're going to have it be tuned to follow them so your light can get in your camera. But
what's
when
the
you're
question? How can we point at Polaris and have it not move?
No, how can you look at the image that's behind me and tell me that that's not the stars moving? You'd have to live somewhere else.
Because of all the observations I just described. Every single thing that I just described shows the Earth is what's moving, because the gyroscope is measuring the Earth's motion. We're measuring weight change on the Earth, not in the sky, not with the stars. All of
Yeah.
this is indicative of the Earth itself moving.
Now, do you agree that in the image behind me, the stars certainly appear to be turning or moving, right?
Yeah, but did you hear what I said previously?
Yes. Yes. And the point I'm making, I'm not arguing with you, actually. I'm not. I understand all the observations that you're mentioning. They give you the idea that obviously you think that the ground is rotating on its axis, the Earth is. And so that's what we see in the sky when we have a camera sitting still on a moving Earth, right? I think that's what you're saying.
The observations match what the measurements show. The observations match what the measurements show.
So I don't want to go on too long about this, but the point I want to make is that the observation I'm making right now, and everybody that's looking at the screen behind me right now, is making an observation of the stars moving, and knowing that I didn't move my camera was stationary, attached to the ground. That would be saying if I live on the ground, which I do, the sky is actually turning. You could say relative to me, the sky is turning, right?
But it's not. Oh my God.
Okay, let me try this a different way. Have you ever been on a playground and you know those platforms that you can spin around and spin it, the merry-go-round, but you have to push it?
Yep.
Okay. If you were to spin that merry-go-round and you were to lay down on it so that your eyes are right in the middle, you would see a focal point to the spin in your vision.
Yeah.
Of the sky.
Yep.
Are you moving, or is the sky in that example?
In that example, you would be moving.
You would be moving.
And
exactly.
the sky technically depends on how long you were doing it for. If you had time to see the sky.
Yeah, but in this example, all jokes aside, if you were to lay your head at the very center of that merry-go-round as it's spinning, you would have a focal point to the spin in your vision.
Like
you
an
are
axis
actually
of rotation.
Moving.
Yeah.
You are actually moving in that example.
Exactly.
Okay. Replace the merry-go-round with Earth. Bob's your uncle on that image.
Okay, so, but the Earth is where we live. And I know I'm not trying to be redundant. I'm just saying the Earth we live on, the sky turns above it. Now, if we lived up in the sky, if we lived up at the stars and we looked down, maybe the Earth would be turning, right? It would be just the opposite of what it looks like from here, but it would be the Earth that would be turning, right? It's relative to whatever one we choose, and that's kind of the point I'm making.
If you want to say relative, that's fine. But what I'm trying to say is that we have evidence to show that the Earth is not stationary. Period.
What, merry-go-rounds?
Merry-go-rounds indicate how what you're showing doesn't prove that the Earth is stationary. Well, that's all that example was meant to demonstrate.
It does. Where was my camera? It was on the Earth.
And but just as you said with the merry-go-round example, if what you said is true for the merry-go-round, then it is just as true for the Earth.
That is live on a merry-go-round.
That is the direct consequence of agreeing with the fact that if you were to lay down on that merry-go-round and spin, there'll be a focal point in your vision of the spin, but you're the one actually rotating, not the sky.
But that's not what's happening.
For the Earth.
That's a concept that you're coming up with, but that's hard to say.
More like an example, but okay.
Well, it's really an idea or a concept. It's a model or whatever. It's not something that we observe, because when I put my camera on the ground and don't move it, this is what I observe. So
it's not. No. We do a lot more than just observe it. We also measure it. So we have.
Oh, I know. There's all these measurements, and I don't necessarily look at them the same way as you do.
Well, maybe you should just look at them in general, because when you combine all of these observations, they focus on the same answer. Basically, what we're building here is a cumulative case to show that the Earth is rotating.
Okay, so what about paying attention to reality and the room you're in right now? Look around. It's not moving. It's not rotating. And I know you're saying you'd need to have acceleration to know that. Well, you really wouldn't. It's actually what I'm saying is that it's not moving. And
I
that
drink
if
enough
it was
tequila and
moving,
believe me, it's moving.
what's that? I'm
I
sorry.
drink enough tequila and believe me, it's moving.
Yeah, get drunk and it's moving, right?
Yeah,
No,
but
do you guys get
you
what I'm
just
saying though? I'm not
but you
trying to be
answered
like
your own question. You answered your own question though. The reason why I'm not feeling velocity is because you can't feel velocity. There's no change
yeah.
in there's no
So what I'm
acceleration
saying
on me
is that
right
it's
now.
stationary.
No, that doesn't mean it's stationary. Absolutely not. The only
So
way
someone says there's velocity, so it must
you
have
feel
velocity.
acceleration, not speed.
But
Just because you don't
velocity,
feel anything doesn't mean you're not at speed.
but you're assuming the velocity part that
No, that's
we're
not an
at a rate.
assumption. Again, it is a measurable, demonstrable fact in the reality that you also occupy.
Um, not where I live, not in Minnesota. It's just sitting here. It's just been sitting here the whole time. I'm 43 and it's never moved.
No, you just haven't been measuring it. This is
Well,
when I say it is a demonstrable reality, I mean it is demonstrable. This isn't an opinion. This is a statement of fact. This
It
is
moves
not
okay,
about.
something
like
that is
say,
assumed.
let me
This is
let me
something
give
that
an
was
example.
discovered.
Let me give an example. A
It
ring.
moves the North Star moves about 7 arc seconds every year.
You're saying it moves its location.
Yeah, it drifts to the northeast about 7 arc seconds every year.
Seven arc
That's
seconds.
yeah, that's measurable.
And is this, how long has this been continuing on? Do we have record
Uh,
of, I mean?
there's ancient sailors' almanacs which charted the position of stars over years because they needed to know the correct positions for navigation, right?
And it used to be a different star, you're saying?
Well, no, the
Or
North
a
Star
different area?
for us has always been the North Star, but it's been in a measurable different position over the years,
Well,
and
it measures a
based on
different
based on the
position
rate
every
that it's
night.
going, in about 12,000 years, the
All
North
right.
Star will actually be Vega.
What I'm going to do
I
is
don't think it'd
say
be
this.
Vega. That's pretty far
What
away.
I'm going to do is just say this so we can move on to the next thing. The observation that you're showing me doesn't convince me in the slightest that we live on a flat earth, and I don't think is convincing anyone in the live chat right now. So do you have something else that you can provide that would lead me to the conclusion that the earth is flat? Anything?
Probably not a whole lot, because you have I'm not trying to insult you. I'm just saying you have a very decided mindset and that's
I
hard
have
to
I have
change.
this thing, they're called standards, and unfortunately the Bible does not meet them.
And what about observations that you have a P1000? Take your P1000 and put it on the Star Trail thing and put it outside and tell me if the stars were moving or if your camera was moving.
Again, if
It,
we were to look at the sky on a merry-go-round, I would see the same exact effect.
but how
That,
about just
but
in
in
reality
that,
with your camera?
but in that
Forget the
time,
merry-go-round part.
no, I'm not going to forget the merry-go-round part because it's an example of what we are seeing. Just because
It's an
the
example
stars
of like
rotate
this.
around a celestial point, that doesn't mean we are still.
Okay, right, and that's an opinion.
No, that's a statement of fact. That's something that we can
It,
demonstrate by simply going to the park and finding a merry-go-round and testing it for ourselves.
well, yeah, we can do a merry-go-round game, but we're not on a merry-go-round.
No,
You get what I'm saying? We're on
but
the earth,
exactly
and
like
it's
a merry-go-round, you
every perception that and sense that your body has tells you that it is completely stationary and solid as a rock, like it always has been. And I'm not trying to argue with your point, because you have your gyroscope and you have the other things that you brought up, that
the sensory
your measurements.
perception isn't perfect. Sensory perception is flawed. You make
Well,
flawed
I
judgments based
understand
on
that.
your perception constantly, so it is foolish to rely on them to that degree.
Okay, and then I'll be done with this not this conversation, but this part of the question or the conversation or whatever, by just saying this, that you're able to ignore the sky turning above your head because you have a concept idea that the ground is turning.
Every example that I gave included the sky turning. I'm not ignoring it. You're just not accepting my answer.
No, I'm accepting your answer. I'm not saying that you're wrong or something. I'm saying that you are able to ignore your own flawed perceptions in order to. So
because I have more accurate equipment I can rely on.
And
Absolutely.
That's actually exactly what I'm pointing out, is that you're relying on the equipment rather than your actual senses that you make.
I am not going to rely on my. I'm not going to rely on my senses when driving. I'm going to look at the speedometer.
Yeah, no, and that's more accurate. I agree. But when we're looking at the reason why I have this image playing behind me is because that's the point I'm making, is that anybody that is trying to say that this is not the stars turning, they're not paying attention to where they live. That's what I'm saying. We live on a place that has a sky above it turning. Everybody does. We all live here.
That is your assertion, and your assertion is based on a fundamentally flawed concept. The concept is deemed flawed, not by me, not by
so flawed,
not by
so
Fight the Flat Earth or
turning.
anybody. It's deemed demonstrably false by the measurements that we have been able to gather.
And I just would have to disagree with the measurements.
You can disagree with the measurements all you want. The point is that the measurements exist. The measurements exist. And so if you ask any reasonable person, we say, hey, we have a guy who hasn't done any measurements, but trusts his
I'm doing a measurement right now.
Is flawed. And we have this other guy who doesn't go that far, but trusts the tools and equipment that are used in planes and stuff like that. Who are you going to believe?
Reds. This is a measurement or an observation. Okay. It's a simple one. The sky's turning above my camera. Simple.
It's an observation that doesn't prove your point, though.
Well, it says what I'm trying to say about the sky moving and the Earth being stationary.
No, it falls short of what you want it to. What you want it to prove, and what it's actually showing are two different things. What you're trying
in your
to
opinion.
Say, no, in actual demonstrable reality.
What is this? What is this doing in the background? That's the point I'm making. The sky's turning in the image that my camera takes, and I have side reel motors on my telescope because the sky's turning, and my telescope is set on the ground that's not turning. That's the whole point I'm making.
The sky could be stationary, and the Earth could be turning with your camera still attached to the Earth, and it would still make that view.
But why would you choose that if the reality is that the camera's not moving? Like, I mean,
because
if
in reality,
go put something in the backyard and
the camera is moving. In reality, we have measurements to show that the camera is moving, and I choose not to ignore parts of reality that are inconvenient to the.
You're gonna ignore the sky turning above your camera, just so that you can say, "Oh, I'm intellectually have better information than that." So, and you're saying
not once did I ignore your image.
Not once you're able to say that you don't live on the Earth, or what? I don't get it.
No, I didn't. I'm not. Now you're just putting words in my mouth. I said your image does not demonstrate what you want it to demonstrate. You're saying if you're saying I'm ignoring your image, then I'm saying you're ignoring the physical measurements that we have done in reality that you yourself occupy that shows that we are the ones actually rotating, not the sky.
And I don't think that those are precise ways to measure certain things.
You have a better way of doing it? I'm all ears.
Sorry,
yeah,
I'm sitting
in this room right now that's not moving. That's the whole point I'm making. The sky's turning above my house right now. There's stars. They are moving above my house right now.
So basically, but I kind of have to show what a measurement is, right?
Wait. So your approach to the ring laser gyro, the weighted scales, the pendulum is look at this video and take my word for it. Got it.
Well, it's not my word for it. It's your
No,
word.
that because
It's
you're giving
everybody's
me
word.
nothing else.
No, it's everybody's word for it. Everybody knows that the stars move, the constellations move in the night sky. Everybody knows that.
Or
So it's not
the
my
Earth could
word.
be
It's something
rotating.
that we observe.
Or the Earth
Everybody
could be
observes it.
rotating.
What's that?
Or the Earth could be rotating.
No, I agree. It could be. It could be rotating, or it could be the sky rotating. And
So
the point I'm making,
what are we even talking about here then?
the point I'm making is that we live on the Earth, and we've taken in, somehow we try to pretend that we're up there looking down on the Earth, and we can see all this solar system and all this stuff, when we don't see the planets orbiting the sun. We don't see that. We see the sun going over our heads every day and the moon going over our heads every day, and we see the planets doing retrograde motion up in the sky,
You're
moving.
accusing the people that have made measurements, that made this coherent model that we rely on, which by the way makes accurate predictions to this day. You're accusing them of basically malpractice or lying or deceiving the public. If you can provide us with a model that provides a better, if you can provide us with a model that provides a better accuracy of prediction than what we currently have, then I'll trust what you're saying. But all you're giving me is, hey, I took a time lapse one night, check it out, take my word for the rest.
No, I'm not. It's not my word. I'm trying to just simply point out to you, Reds, that in order to go by a lot of the measurements that you're talking about, and actually there's an example. What's a gyroscope called that uses actually light goes into it, and
ring
laser,
fiber optic gyroscope.
Because that kind of can be an example, because we can use that to measure 15 degrees per hour of drift, right? Is that
the ring
correct?
laser gyro is what was doing the measurement in Bob Nodell's example.
So
15 degree per hour drift.
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
In order for us to say that that's an accurate instrument, that means we really have to understand a lot about light too, right? Just the way that light works.
What don't we understand about light?
Reds, how are we talking right now?
Okay. I'm going to get a Coke. I'll be right back.
So, just while he's gone, I'm going to quickly ask you, the audience has asked me to ask you a couple of questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So
sure.
The first one is, if I've got a triangle with sides 1, 1, and 1, what would the internal angles be?
The internal angles?
Yeah.
60, 60, 60.
Wow. Well done. That's better than a lot of flat earthers.
Okay. I got some Coke and some rum. Might need it.
Is 10 to the negative 17
You're gonna need
a
it,
negative
Reds.
or a
I'm just
positive
kidding.
number?
What was that?
Is 10 to the negative 17 a negative or a positive number?
A positive number.
It's a positive number. Good. You should tell JM True for that.
Okay. So
what is 5 divided by
Craig,
0?
Craig, if I can, let me just go over this.
Over to you.
With the measurements that we have shown, the way you retell the story of how we got to the model that we now accept makes it seem like the pioneers, the people who made the measurements, were engaged in some sort of dishonesty. So let me ask you something. Do you think that the giants of the past, the scientific giants of the past, do you think that they were lying? Do you think they were dishonest?
Nope, not at all.
Okay, so they actually measured what they were measuring, correct?
Yep. Or they believed what they told people. I don't think that there was any kind of like conspiracy or something.
Okay, that's good.
I know there's a lot of flat earthers that are like the Freemasons, and they say all this stuff, and there's nothing to base it on.
Okay, so now that we have everything, or at least that established, how did we, assuming that you're right, how did it go so wrong?
Well, I don't think it went so wrong. I think it actually went in a way where we made certain assumptions about the sky that could lead people into error. I'm not saying I know this because I obviously wasn't alive when Galileo was looking through his Fisher-Price telescope. And he saw that's one of the adds credence to gravity, right? Galileo, if I remember right, because
Gravity is Newton.
well, I'm saying when Galileo saw the moons going around Jupiter, that added a lot of credence to the sky being a physical place with gravity.
Yeah, all the
Did it not?
observations, all the observations kind of backed up everything that was happening.
Yeah,
But
pretty
Galileo
much.
was a big one, I'm saying, because of seeing the moons.
Galileo, Kepler, Newton, yeah, giants.
Yeah, I don't think that they're being dishonest.
Okay, so
I think
if
go
they
ahead.
actually measured what they were measuring, why do you not accept their measurements?
Well, I don't necessarily not accept their measurements. I think their measurements are fine, but there's certain things that we can't know. There's certain, I
Like?
mean, like, how many times have you been into orbit? Like, there's certain things that to measure this distance to the sun. How do we do that?
How do we measure the distance to the sun?
Yeah, I don't know of a way.
Oh, God. Okay, I can go ahead and go through this if you really want to, but you need to strap in because it's a long ride.
I don't need an explanation.
No,
Maybe
the reason
I'm trying to
why
make a point.
the reason why I'm asking is because I've done it. I have actually measured the distance to the sun.
Can you just give us a quick general like about like how you did it or whatever, just in a general
Can't really
terms?
give a general on this, but I'll try to go over the steps. The first thing we did is we waited for the opposition of Mars. That's when Mars is the closest to us. We got two measurements. We got how far it was away from the Earth and its angular size. That would give us its actual size, the
How
actual
would you
size of
know,
Mars.
not to interrupt you, sorry, how would you know how far that was?
Parallax measurements. We used two telescopes, one in Florida, one in New Mexico.
Okay. And so you take that angle and then you can get the distance.
Correct.
Basically with
parallax
geometry,
measurements.
right?
Correct. We were able to measure the distance to Mars.
Okay. How accurate how accurate is all your equipment to I'm just saying that's a factor too.
Down to a single arc second.
Arc second. Okay.
Yeah, so very accurate. These are very expensive telescopes. So we didn't, now to be clear, we don't own the second telescope. We rented time on a telescope. That's why we had two. But
That's
the other
a really
one
nice
in Florida,
telescope then.
with the other one in Florida, we owned it. But we got our measurement to show the distance and the angular size, which means we could find the actual size of Mars, what it is in reality.
Can I just ask? Can I ask a question? I'm not trying to interrupt you. It's just I honestly don't understand or don't know what you're talking about right now. So and I'm curious. So if we have, you're saying the parallax, you're in New Mexico or wherever you were in Florida or whatever, and you're measuring the angle from the horizon. Is that what you're doing?
No, you measure the shift. Put your finger in front of you. Blink between your two eyes. Your finger will appear to move.
Okay.
Yeah, your finger will appear to move relative to the background. That angle, that shift is what we were measuring.
Okay.
The amount of shift we see in the image or between the two images will give us a direct measurement of how far away that object is if we know our baseline, which we did. With that, we also measured how big it appeared in the sky. That's called its angular size.
Angular size, yeah.
With these two measurements, we were able to get Mars's actual size, how big it actually is. Now, you can reverse engineer that. If you know its actual size and its angular size, you can know how far away it is from the observer. So we figured out, okay, who's done this measurement before? There's a measurement all the way back in 1980 something, and then there's another measurement in 2007 where Mars was at its closest and Mars was at its farthest. If you were to plot these out on an orbit, you would see that you could actually build an equation to figure out what the distance is between the Earth and the Sun. That is a very, very rough descriptor of what we actually did. It goes into, like, for example, Kepler's third law, the square of the orbital period of an object is proportional to the cube of the same major axis. That was a part of it. And another thing that we did was understanding that orbits take time and knowing, based on Kepler's third law, the time and the period between the Earth relative to Mars's orbit. All of these things factor in together. And you can actually do the math to figure out the distance between Earth and the sun. And guess what? We were able to get a value for that. And what I can do is this. If I have the capability, what I will do is I will send Fight a document.
Roger.
And Fight, if you can, I would like for you to screen share this document, if you can, for me. Is that fair?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let me go ahead and bring up this document real quick. And this is it's called Solfax. All right.
And what we'll do is we'll go for about 10 more minutes, and then we'll go through super chats and see if there's any questions in there. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Craig, go ahead and view that document and share it on screen. Okay. So let me see how I can pin this. Guess I can't. All right. So yeah,
it's just too small for me to read. No, I'm just kidding.
I can't shift view. Gallery view, there it is. Okay. Well, anyway, the other people can see. I'll read it out to you.
Okay.
Just barely going over it. Just barely going over it. What it does is it lists a bunch of measurements that we actually did. And these measurements, if you see the circumference of the Earth, Earth's surface separation, direct under Earth's surface distance, and all the trigonometry that goes with it. You have the location of the first telescope, location of the second telescope, so on. Distance to Mars was 63 million kilometers roughly. The diameter of Mars was found to be 6.7 thousand kilometers or so. Scroll down if you can. And then we have, according to astronomy.com, these are the sizes of Mars at opposition, 13.8 arc seconds to 25.1 arc seconds. Scroll down. There's the distance of Mars at S, distance to Mars at L, which shows its actual distances. So we're able to make now a map of what the solar system actually looks like. Like we can see the diameter of Mars's orbit completely. Then we have Mars's orbital period, which is 687 days or 1.882 Earth years, Kepler's third law. Mars distance to Sol in astronomical units, we were able to find that out to be 1.524 AU. And so now we get to the solution where R equals 1 AU. Our final equation is 2 times the product of 1.524 R, which equals 2R plus S plus L. That's the difference between Mars at closest approach and furthest. So closest will be S and furthest will be L. So 2A equals 2R plus S plus L, blah, blah, blah. Go through all the math and you have an answer at the bottom. The answer for R comes out to 150,106,670.25 kilometers, which is exactly what the nameless, faceless they have been telling us since elementary school.
I like that, the nameless, faceless they. That's a good one.
Yeah, and guess what? Which means they're right. And this translates to 93 million miles.
So, yeah, and I understand there's math that gets us all there, but what if
not just math? Hang on.
No, it's a lot of things.
It's observations and math. Mm-hmm. It's the math off of those observations.
Mm-hmm. And what I believe is that we've been assuming things like how you got that you had the 2 telescopes. I'm not good with my vocabulary. Your 2 telescopes at the 2 different locations. Yeah, your parallax. What if we're mistaken about something, like as far as in the sky? Because to assume the parallax measurement is right would be to assume that it's a physical object out in a place and it's basically the same except minus the air or whatever, the atmosphere. It's basically a space like from me to my computer, or like you know what I'm saying? Just like a physical space. What if it's not a physical space?
If I can see it, it exists. That's all that matters.
Yeah. And what I'm saying is, what if it's a place that we have possibly judged? We've missed.
It can be a shutdown Chuck E. Cheese for all I care. What matters is the
Shut down
measurements
Chuck E.
we were able to get off of that object being Mars. And we also saw that if it was a shutdown Chuck E. Cheese, it was a shutdown Chuck E. Cheese with the diameter of a planet.
Okay. I'm not going to say it's not legitimate what you're saying, because obviously you have a lot of time into it, and other people have done it, come up with the same numbers.
Yeah, they can. Now, I understand that the math can get fairly complicated, but here's the thing. If you ask a guy who's not involved in your project, but is very good at math, you say, hey, I have this mathematical problem. Here are the values I found. I'm not going to tell you what these values represent. Tell me the answer you come up with. He will get roughly 150 million kilometers.
Yeah.
And then he's going to come back to you and say, what does this value represent? And you're going to say the distance between Earth and the sun. You're going to be like, oh, damn, look at that. You don't necessarily have to do the math yourself. But the fact is that there are forums, there are chat rooms dedicated to math problems. So if you just dropped it on there, they're all going to come back with the same answer because the math checks out.
Yeah, I don't agree that, or I don't disagree that it does. I mean, that's fine. I guess what I'm saying is, what if, and this is probably all I can really say about it, is I think we've all been born into a time where we're making some horrible assumptions. That's what my stance is on it. And some of these assumptions are like parallax and some of these things.
I look at it a different way. We've been born in a time where we have equipment and technology that would make Kepler cream his britches. And I say we take full advantage of it. And I was able to take full advantage of it. Granted, I had help from Astronomy Live, who was a great big help because he had the connection with the telescopes in New Mexico, and he also has a telescope of his own. So springboarding off of his capability of getting access to this equipment, we decided to do something very crazy with it. Use it. And we used it to make measurements.
I respect that. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what all the flat earthers would say we should be doing, right? We should be testing these things, right?
Yeah, go figure. But we didn't make any assumptions when doing our measurements. We measured it. The value that spat out is the value that we went with. And guess what?
How many times have you been in orbit? How many times have you been to Jupiter or to Mars?
It doesn't matter if I've been there or not. I can measure the distance to it. I've never been to the UK, but I know the place exists.
Yeah, no, I know.
Lies.
But what I'm saying is no one's ever been to Mars to know if it exists, right?
Give us
10 years. Elon's got plans.
Yeah, I know that whatever Mars is.
I know Elon's got plans.
I know that whatever Mars is, we have a rover on it. It's very rocky, very dusty. Probably don't want to go there. It's probably miserable. And it is the diameter of a planet because I measured it.
So off the wall topic question for both of you guys.
Okay.
Do you guys believe in aliens?
Statistical evidence would suggest we're not the only life.
I would say life exists out there in the universe. Have they visited us? Absolutely fucking not.
So if it exists out there,
they haven't visited us, and believe me, they wouldn't.
But if they do,
here.
if they did visit us, would they be possibly more advanced than us? Or
if they did
more
visit
powerful
us,
than us?
They would go, wait, you're telling us there's people on your planet that think it's flat? Yeah. We'll come back in 1,000 years, guys. Nah, we ain't dealing with you yet, you fucking morons.
Craig, I liked your analogy. I don't know, it was a while ago, maybe a few weeks ago or something. You said something about the 100 years from now that you're going to be like on Mars. There's going to be people that are going to be like, no, Mars is flat. We never came here on a spaceship.
Yeah, we didn't come on a spaceship. There's no evidence of that.
No, and I get it.
It's over there. It's parked.
Let me just make a conclusion here. Try to get back on topic somewhat, maybe. Everything that we have discussed we've discussed multiple pieces of evidence that I have for my position. I haven't heard a lot of evidence for your position, so I'm going to go ahead and call it here.
That's fine.
I wasn't really satisfied with what you brought to the table, and I don't think anyone else was.
Hey,
Can I
Reds,
ask you
quick question. Have you ever
Okay.
been satisfied with what a Flerf has brought to the table in debate?
Not yet. It's been 5 years. I'm still searching.
So 5 years, all those debates, how many times has a flat earther brought evidence of the earth being flat?
None. In fact, one of them tried to avoid evidence altogether by saying that we lived in a simulation. That was fun.
Oh, yeah, that was the Pac-Man Earth guys, right?
Yeah, the Pac-Man Earth guys. Oh,
Yeah,
the reason
apparently
why
they
the
want
sun
to
looks
debate
like it's
us
doing
again.
is because it acts like Pac-Man.
Apparently
So what
they-
about the aliens, though? I was trying to make a quick point, and then I'll be done. I'll shut my mouth, and Craig can ask questions or whatever. But what
For
I'm
me-
asking is, if there was aliens somewhere, and if they were able to come here or whatever, would they be possibly a threat? It's a possibility, right?
Well, what do you do when you see an ant's nest in your back garden? Do you go and pour boiling water over on it to get rid of the pest?
No.
Well, most
Or
people
maybe,
do.
maybe if it's a pest, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
exactly. Who's to say that if
Yeah.
aliens were technologically advanced enough to come here, they would either consider
yeah.
us as a,
That's
you know, on the
Yeah,
same
that's
level?
exactly what I'm
we
saying.
Might, it might just be, oh, look, there's a planet with resources we need. It's full of a bunch of creatures running around it. Doesn't matter what they are. Let's get rid of them and use the resources. Or they're
Yeah.
intelligent enough that they've evolved to the point where, you know, they respect all life in a different way. Who's to know? The universe
knows?
is
Yeah.
fucking massive. But like Red said, it's very, very unlikely that aliens have visited here.
I agree. But I do that the point I was trying to say was that if there was, and when I say alien, I mean like angelic. If there was angels, all I'm trying to say is that I think that they're smarter than us. That's what I'm saying. And there's a realm of darkness above us where the Bible and several other books says that there are fallen
Okay.
angels imprisoned there. So that's all. I'm not going to bring it up anymore.
Yeah,
But,
I mean,
Okay.
yeah. So before I read super chats, I just want to ask you one quick question. So
Yes.
space is real, or at least up there. Satellites, the ISS exists. It's whizzing around up there. Red's measured it. What was the distance, Reds?
The distance to the ISS was about 412.144 kilometers.
And what speed was
Here's
it
some
going?
footage I took.
So the altitude of the ISS was 412 kilometers, and its speed was roughly 7 kilometers a second.
Right. So how is it up
It's
there
about-
at that speed and distance? How is it staying up there without crashing to the ground if orbits aren't a thing?
Well, this might be like, you guys will probably laugh at this, but okay, you guys have heard of the bottomless pit, right? Or a bottomless pit. Let's just say a bottomless pit would mean you're falling, right? I mean, if you went into it, it would be bottomless, so you could fall forever, right?
Uh-huh.
So in space, isn't everything falling around something else?
Yeah,
And
that's,
I
what an orbit
this-
is, but that requires there
Yeah.
to be a spherical body with gravity.
Or that's our understanding anyway, right?
Well, no, that's literally what it is. Newton's
But what if
canon
it's
describes
what
it
if
the
it's
best.
angelic? What if there's angelic powers up
But
there
what if Harry
that
Potter
are
real?
able to deceive men?
Yeah,
So
but
magic.
What? Yeah.
No,
I mean,
not magic.
It's
Really,
it is
literally
magic.
a higher power. Literally a
That's
higher.
what you're describing, though.
That is literally magic. You know, talking donkeys,
Higher
making the
power?
women out of ribs, angels in the sky. That's all magic. A higher power
Well,
is magic. But the thing is, you look at the ISS specifically. Reds has literally shown that something that left the ground that he recorded was then attached
Yeah.
to the ISS and then came back. There is no
like
bottomless.
the Dragon capsule.
Yeah.
Right?
So I mean, so it's been there and
Yeah.
come back, which shows it's a real physical place.
Hang on, Craig. Hang on. So for more information, please view my video on the Fight the Flat Earth YouTube channel. Flat Earth scientists Peter and Pete face to feet. All right, continue.
Yeah, man, they ran so hard from us. Although, Reg, they
Oh,
have
really?
said that we're allowed
Go
to go
figure.
onto their channel.
Mm-hmm.
I might do it just for shits and giggles. Right. So yeah, I might need to have another conversation with you, Eftupworld, about orbits and stuff.
Yeah,
But,
it'd be fun.
I'm gonna read through super chats and stuff at the moment. Right. So
Hang
I
on,
did
and
get
before
one.
we before we get to super chats, let me ask one final question.
Yeah, over to you.
Okay, so the question is, when it comes to ISS and when it comes to objects in space, what do you think happens? Do you think they just get to a certain altitude and they just stop falling down for some reason?
No, I think that if you like, here's an
Let me rephrase
example.
the question. Let me
Okay.
rephrase the question. What do they have to do to not only go to space, but stay in space?
They have to launch from the ground, and they have to get out of the air for the most part and start moving parallel to the surface of the Earth
Oh, my brain.
to orbital velocity. And then they can let go of whatever they want to stay up there, and it'll degrade a little bit, but not much.
Okay, but an orbit requires curving down with an Earth curving away just as fast. So you acknowledge
where
that
I think
this
we're
idea
being
doesn't work on a
deceived.
flat Earth, right?
No, it works on a flat Earth as long as
How?
if you look at the sky differently than you do now. And I'm
So
not
we
saying
imagine
you
ignore
have
actual
to.
physics.
Well, I don't think I don't think the sky is a physical place the way that the Earth is.
So you believe there's orbital velocity on a flat plane?
Well, there has to be orbital velocity over a globe so that there's 0 g, right?
Yeah.
So
and
what
tangential
if
speed
it was
matching the
flat
acceleration.
and there was no physics?
No,
I mean, but there is physics.
No, but have you been into orbit,
that actually
Craig?
that actually
You've
answers
never
my
been
question.
into orbit, Craig.
That,
And look at the
that
space
actually answers my
station.
question. That actually answers my question, Craig. The answer is ignore physics.
Yeah.
No, it's
All right,
not
we're
ignore
good.
physics. It's that when they are saying that they're basically free falling perpetually around the sphere by gravity, and they have a velocity so that they basically find that happy medium where there's the outward acceleration matches with the gravity, right?
Tangential speed matches the acceleration.
Is that what it's
towards
called?
The ground.
I don't know the correct terms, but
but
that is the right
answer
concept,
the
right?
question of how does the ISS stay up there in
Because
your world?
It's been put into the next realm, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying I'm right.
Exactly what I said.
So
Ignore
magic.
physics.
Yeah. Thing
Well,
is,
but what
we
I'm
know
saying is
physics
that do we
works up
have
there the
evidence
way-
of physics being
Yes, we do.
being
We've
floating in
we've
the
sent stuff
ISS?
there. We've
That's
sent
what I'm
stuff
saying
to
is-
space. We've measured things out there. We've used our understanding of physics, for instance, to
Yes.
discover Neptune. Do you know how Neptune was
Yes.
discovered?
I don't.
Right. So they were watching Uranus, right, and they'd figured out all the laws of orbital motion and stuff, and
You bet they
Newton's
were. I'm just
gravitational,
kidding.
right? And they were watching the orbit of Uranus, and what they noticed was that at a certain point in the year, the orbit of Uranus just went fucking mental. It was not doing what they expected it to do based on the laws of motion and orbital mechanics that they'd come up with,
Yeah.
right? So they did a bit of math and they said, right, well, this movement of Uranus can actually be explained if there is another massive body at a particular point causing a gravitational disturbance to the orbit of Uranus, right?
Boom.
So what they
Neptune.
did was they did the maths and they said, right, it has to be here. So if at this point in the year we look at this specific point in the sky, we should find a planet that is the predicted
Yeah,
size that
there
we
should be
say.
a planet
And that's
there,
how
yes.
they found Neptune, right? And that was
Yes.
they literally based on our understanding of physics around orbits and everything.
Yes.
And
Yes,
how
and-
gravity works. And that proves conclusively that what we're saying about space and how orbits works is true, otherwise we wouldn't have been able to discover Neptune.
Or it could be that when you go into a realm of darkness,
Define
And-
realm, please.
Yeah.
the Earth where we live, I would say, is like a realm, a place of existence. I don't know what I don't have a very good vocabulary, but if here's what I'm getting at. I'm not trying to like drag this out. If there's angels that have more power mentally and physically or whatever, they have more power than we do. They're smarter than we are. If that's the case, you don't think that we'd be sending probes to that place of deception and they'd be coming back with the data that we expected? Do you know what I'm saying? Of course Neptune would be there.
I mean,
have to be
I'm
there.
saying
I honestly love sci-fi books as well. Really, I really do, and that sounds like a great story. I mean, it could be a new set of movies after they finish the MonsterVerse with Godzilla and King Kong. But unfortunately, reality disagrees with you. We have sent probes and stuff out there and brought back the data, and it is what we say it is. We've also taken pictures of the Earth from space that matches
There's no
reality.
possibility that there's any way that you could be deceived.
No,
not to this scale. Not with my own observations.
It would literally require
not by men.
Hundreds
I'm not
of...
saying deceived by men. I'm saying deceived by a higher power that like what created us or something. Like that. Yeah,
but
so God is a liar in this context?
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying God. I'm saying like angelic beings.
Okay,
Can you define angelic beings for me, please?
Angels.
So angels that created us would also deceive us.
Well, I don't think angels
got to have
shits
shits and giggles,
I'm saying
right?
of the same nature, like the celestial nature or whatever.
So basically, these beings that we have no evidence for are lying to us in a way that just somehow matches our observed reality when we measure it. Interesting.
Yeah.
It's a very, very interesting conspiracy. One that I am going to not take on board.
That's fine.
Yeah, right. And it's time to read super chats. And there's quite a few questions for you there as well, Eftupworld.
I'm ready.
If anyone's got any questions that aren't super chats, please try and tag me in the chat now, or maybe message me on Discord or something with them, and I'll try to get to them. First one I want to read out was somebody sent me one on PayPal. Joe, I'm not going to say your second name, but you say that you can't comment on my channel. You gave me 10 Australian dollars, which thank you, but you say you can't comment on my channel, but you can on others. I've checked the block list and you're not on it, so I don't know why that is. Best to contact YouTube. But thank you for your donation. Now let me just refresh this so I can start reading all the super chats.
Greg just made a quick $10. No, I'm just kidding.
I just want to say thank you to everybody for the support tonight. There's been nearly 600 of you watching. That's amazing. Quite a lot of super chats to get through. So again, that's absolutely incredible. If you're not able to support financially, the best way to help the channel is to share on the Facebooks and the Twitters and the Instagrams and stuff. Getting those views from Facebook and everything is actually a massive, massive part of helping the channel grow. So if you want to help, please, that's one of the best ways. Sigma Step for $20, says never stop fighting the flat Earth. Not until it goes away, and I don't think it will. Sparky NJ for $5 says for Red's face reveal, I know I'm crazy, but I want to see. Red, does he really want to see your face?
He's not just crazy; he has a death wish.
Yeah. You know that they had to clone me the first time after I saw Red's face. Like,
my face is illegal in 14 U.S. states and has been deemed a weapon of mass destruction by the Geneva Convention.
Yeah, if you show someone Red's face, it's a war crime. Doesn't matter if we're at war; it's still a war crime. So
a war crime. That's right.
War crime, and you'll serve time.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So if you guys have ever seen the movie 1408, imagine that, but with your face. Once you see my face.
Oh.
You know, most faces they go to 10. Red's goes to 11.
11. Those are rookie numbers. We've got Bella Charge for $5 New Zealand dollars says, "What's up, fuckers? Hey, Bella, how you doing?" Marek Zerntz for $5 PlayStation Network dollars, and I love that I can pronounce your name now. Thank you. Roby for $2 with a smiley face emoji. Rachel O'Daniels, $5 Australian dollars. FTFE for life. You know it. Traveller X, $7.99 Australian dollars. Does this Flerf deny the moon landings? Eftupworld, what do you think about the moon landings?
I'm glad you asked. I think that the moon landings were not faked. I think that they believed they went to the moon.
That they believe they went to the moon, but did they actually
Yes.
go?
As far as any of us humans would be able to tell, yes, we went. As far as we would be able to tell,
Right. Okay.
we have evidence of going, right?
Yeah.
You know, there was a massive rocket that lifted off from Florida, but you know,
Yeah,
A few of them, if I remember right.
was
Right.
a massive fucking rocket.
So I think it. I personally, I'll just be honest. I think that it is some kind of strong delusion. But I don't think that people are lying about it.
Okay. Fair enough. Indie Tiger,
If that answers
$10.
that.
Thank you. Says Eftupworld. You can see the sunset on the open ocean, where nothing is in the way to obscure your view of the sun, except the giant ball called Earth.
Or
So-
if the Earth was flat, something would be in the way, wouldn't it?
Well, not if the sun is so far up. And MC Toon did the math the other day that if the Earth is flat and the sun is above us, it would have to be at 3,012 miles. And there's nothing on
I've heard all
Earth
that.
that would block 3,012 miles. So the simple question I think
Your
Indie
10-foot
Tiger's trying to
fence.
get at
If
is
you stand on,
where does
Oh,
the sun
sorry.
go at night?
well, if you stand in your yard and the sun's going over, and you stand right next to your 10-foot high fence, it's going to block the sun from you seeing it, right?
Yeah,
There's a
but,
10-foot high fence between you and the sun, most likely, right?
yeah,
and I
but
know
the
I'm being
fence
ridiculous.
Isn't 10. The sun isn't 10 feet. It's 3,000.
No, but as it
And-
goes over your
and
head,
that
it
angular
appears to
size
go
would
down.
never be small enough for a 10-foot fence to block it. Brain.
Like if
These
the
cows
fence
are
was right
small,
here,
These cows
if the
are
fence-
far away.
I'm 6 feet tall. If the fence was 10 feet tall and it was right here, it wouldn't block the sun.
No,
You know what I'm saying? Well, of course
I
it
mean,
would.
only if you were like right up close to it with your eyes.
That's what I
literally
mean.
blocking
That's-
it. But
I'm
Nothing-
I'm like exaggerating it.
okay. Decepticons Forever for $5 says this is trying to explain that the little people in the rectangular piece of ice you carry in your pocket aren't actually in there to a pioneer. Okay, then the Athens 619
All right.
$5 says that's more of a reach than an obscured why. Oh, Reds, has Uni answered yet?
Uni?
Yeah, about the the missing little bit of the why.
Oh, no. He's a dumbass. Jesus
Unirock?
Christ. Oh yeah, and he still hasn't gotten back to me about that debate. No. He hasn't said that he's sorry for screwing up and calling me a liar, a deceiver, a fraud, whatever, because he
Unirock's
doesn't
a
know
ding-dong.
that you can change the
Yes,
font
he is.
size on your phone.
Yeah, watch this, guys. Look how it says activity. I go into my font size settings, change it to just over medium, and I go back to PayPal, and it now says recent activative. Wow, Unirock, you're a fucking dumbass.
I'm calling
Seriously.
this one a dumpster fire.
Oh, this wasn't too bad. This wasn't too bad. We've had dumpster
I know
fires, but-
I'm only teasing. I've just heard you guys say that before, so I made the little.
that is
background
pretty
with-
cool, though. I do like that.
Just for fun. I like to have fun, even if I'm in a debate and people don't agree with me. That
Hey,
doesn't mean we have to be.
You've done a lot of
enemies.
denying of basic science and stuff, which is always very annoying. But overall, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10 for Flerfs, you've not been bad. I mean, right. So we've got Virillion for $5 says prophecy or meteorites. Place your bets, folks. Truth Nerds for €2. Maybe he should be a fortune teller at a fun fair. Maybe a career change for you there, Eftupworld.
Hey, that's a thought.
Cajun Crustacean for $5 says the Bible/dragon thing is quite possibly the most insanely stupid argument I've ever heard. It's so dumb my oven mitt has exploded from the face palms. Yeah, you need to have extra face palm protection when watching my streams. I do apologize. Daniel McGlone for £2 says what? Sorry, go on.
Oh, I was just gonna say that Craig has a plan, an insurance plan. If you guys want,
Yeah.
you can. He's probably got it in the description.
Yeah, you can get free replacements. Daniel McGlone for £2 says, what the actual fuck is this guy? Get in the bin, comic book fan. What?
Ooh.
Dark Sky for £2 says Elon Tesla, SpaceX Chad featuring in the Bible. Yeah, I might actually tweet Elon later and tell him that he was featured in the Bible. Daniel McGone for
Do it.
£2 says, I am a Flerf. I can count to potato. That's quite high for flat earthers, actually. Justin Nell,
Is that
$5.
one potato too?
Oh,
Is
no,
that-
that's. I mean, it's far too complicated math for you to go through. Don't try it.
Okay, I'd probably zone out.
Yeah, Justin Nail for $5. If the Earth was flat, people in Hawaii would be able to see the west coast of the US with an infrared camera affixed to a telescope, but we can't.
How
Why
far
can't
is that?
they? It's about 1,000 and 1,200 miles, maybe. I'm not sure.
Someone needs to learn how optics work. You're not going to see that far with the telescope. Sorry, not through the air.
Don't see why not with a really good telescope and an infrared camera that sees for a lot of refraction.
Not
and stuff.
not over the water, over like at the low elevation. Maybe
So
if you're
not
looking
not
up
really
at the
optics,
sky.
more refraction then.
Well, yeah, to see from Hawaii to see the coast, even
Mhm.
if it was flat, you'd never see that. You'd never see that far.
Oh, you'd definitely be able to see some of the mountains, but anyway.
No, not really. I live from Minneapolis. I go to a town called Elk River, and it's 31 miles away from the city. And I look at the downtown skyline there, and some days when you go, depending on the weather, there's no skyline, and some days you can just see it perfect.
Do you know why?
So because there's a lot of stuff in the air, a lot of water in the
'Cause the
air,
Earth's a
moisture in
globe.
the air. What was that?
Because the Earth's a globe.
Oh, okay. I should have
Yeah.
known.
Indie Tiger for $5 says 6,000 years ago, Alpha Draconis was the North Star. Maybe that was the dragon in Revelations.
Maybe.
So 6,000 years ago it was Alpha Draconis. In about 12,000 years, I think it'll be Vega. A Madman for £5 says, my facepalm injuries are adding up. Please consider adding oven gloves to your merch store. That is actually being worked on. Don't you worry. A Madman for £5 says, do films move? A bird would say no if it could talk. Coach Platitude for $5.
Wait, some birds can talk. Hold on.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
They can mimic. Coach Platitude, $5. Eftupworld, explain how Starlink works on a flat Earth.
I think that's probably a similar question to like, how does the ISS stay up there?
Yeah, but
I think it's in a
Starlink's
realm
pretty
that
damn
doesn't
close,
have
like-
gravity.
Yeah, gravity definitely works out there. And Red Sea
Well, that's
says,
just
can
my
you
thoughts.
define platitude?
Platitude, or was that for Reds?
Yeah, I don't know why he's asking Reds to define platitude. You still there, Reds?
I think I made Red fall asleep.
Nope. I'm sorry,
he's
I was
there.
muted. What was the question again?
He's asking you to define platitude.
Isn't that like a statement or like
I'm not Googling it, honest.
it's like a statement of some kind?
A remark or statement, especially one with moral content that has been used too often to
Boom!
be interesting or thoughtful. Yeah, you know.
Nice, Red.
Nice.
Nice, man.
Then we got
I
Brett
know how to
Moses
use it in a
for-
sentence, but the exact definition, yeah. So like something to do with a statement or. Hang on
Yeah.
1 second. Hang on.
It was word for
Hang on,
word.
hang on.
He said it word for word.
Hang on. Let's try this. Okay, Google. Define platitude.
Here's the definition of platitude. A remark or statement, especially one with a moral content, that has been used too often to be interesting or thoughtful.
Yeah, that's right.
I would have said
Strange.
latitude with a P in the front.
Right. Brett Moses for $5 says, if you're a carpenter, do you use a tape measure? If so, why don't you just use your eyes?
Because the tape measure is more accurate.
So
Interesting.
yeah. Hey, and
Yep.
if I'm to use my senses, Eftupworld, am I to believe that the entire world is blurry? Like, 320p or something.
No, I don't think you should believe that the entire world's blurry.
Oh, I've got
You're
to use a
saying
tool.
if your vision is impaired, it would appear that the world is blurry or something. right?
Yeah. Yeah, it only appears that way. It's not actually that way. Empty Hermit 29 for $10 says this guy's argument hinges on humanity being primitive cavemen with no cognitive reasoning ability. Sorry, but the rest of us decided to actually advance as a species. Please try and catch up.
I'll try.
Ooh. Connell Silverfur for $5. I'm tired of Flerfs using religion in their scientifically illiterate arguments. I am a proud Christian and have no problems with the globe or science. Yeah. How do you feel about the fact that the majority of people that follow the Bible don't think the earth is flat?
I guess I would have to say I would expect that, because it's quite a crazy topic to look into to begin with. Flat earth, I mean. And also a lot of people that believe the Bible don't necessarily believe that things can change. And like in Enoch, when it says that God will transform the earth and make it a blessing and cause his elect to dwell there, but the sinners won't set foot thereon. There's things like that make me think maybe the earth is changing.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Craig. Thanks.
Then we've got, where do we get to? Johnny Marr for £2 says, if Earth doesn't move, then please explain the Perseids and the Leonids showers. You know what they are, right? They're the two showers each year where we pass through the trail of Halley's Comet.
Yeah, I would say probably that's just phenomena happen in the sky, like meteors or whatever, the things that come into our
predicted by the
atmosphere.
heliocentric model.
Yeah.
Yeah, not by any kind of flat
It's all
model.
predicted. It's all predicted. It's perfect up there. It's a perfect clock up there.
That's what a model is. The Athens 619 for $5 says, what about I am doesn't disprove Anne? It's your burden of proof to show we are mistaken. I didn't feel like you showed a great amount of evidence that the earth was flat, if I'm honest. And
I would not argue with that, because I think it's more about the way that I look at the world. I don't, well, here's some evidence. What is the whole flat earth debate, or the whole movement, or whatever you want to call it? Where did that come from?
Stupidity.
Okay, but
I can play you an audio
why didn't
clip
it
of my
why didn't
toilet
it
flushing.
come why didn't it come from stupidity 10 years before, or 5 years before it did? I'm just trying to make a point, you know.
So Einstein said that there's two things that are infinite, right? Human stupidity and the universe. And he wasn't really sure about the universe. And Einstein also said that what you've got to think is how stupid the average person is. And then imagine that half the people in the world are dumber than that.
It's a good point.
Yeah, that's where flat Earth comes from.
Okay.
And the research, the current flat Earth climate exists because the internet allowed the village idiot to leave the village.
Okay, but just for example, I've been on YouTube for 11 years, and I didn't start seeing anything or hearing anything about flat Earth till like 5 years ago.
Yeah, it took them a while to figure out technology.
Oh, okay, I see. They had to figure out how to use the mouse.
Yeah. Richard Pertsev for $2 says, a rock is smarter than you, Flerf. Doesn't like you there.
Hey, thanks.
And another one for $2 says, Eftupworld is effed in the head. Virillion for $5 Australian says, that's perfect. Just ignore all physics. Magical space holes keep everything in place. I know. Why don't we just tell all the physicists that? Roxy Bixby for $5 Canadian says, I saw a space documentary of a genetically modified John Candy flying in a 1986 Winnebago. Yeah, I saw that. It was a brilliant
I saw that
documentary.
Too.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Suck.
It's a good movie.
Refresh that. Make sure I didn't miss any. Oh, there's a few more. Then we got Richard Pertsev for $5. I thought I had left the QAnon talk on Skeptics channel. Apparently not. This is insane. Dude, stop jumping around. You're going to hurt yourself. Yeah, guys, if you are interested, Team Skeptics been streaming about the QAnon thing, which I have no fucking idea what that is.
What is a QAnon thing?
Honestly, I couldn't even begin to explain what QAnon is. Crazy people in
Me too.
America. If
I had
you-
it put underneath
It
one of my
was-
videos, and I've never even talked about it.
It was QAnon was a rally cry for Trump supporters. So, hey, gosh, are you a Trump supporter? Are you secretly kind of racist? Well, have I got
were
the
they
conspiracy
were
for
gonna
you?
drain the swamp or something, is what I
QAnon.
remember hearing.
Do you not accept the fact that Donald Trump lost the election in a legitimate vote? Well, don't worry. We got QAnon. We're going to storm the Capitol. It's going to be awesome. This won't lead to a second impeachment.
Yeah, that's another thing too. I look at I see on my YouTube feed or whatever, all the news things, and they're all talking about second impeachment. And I'm like, dude, how do you impeach somebody that's not even in office? I don't get it.
Well, because he was in office, and
There's-
impeachment means
No,
that
I
he
know.
can't run again, right? If they,
Oh,
Hey,
is that what okay,
yeah.
okay.
Hey,
I get
Craig.
it.
Hey, Craig.
Yo.
I have an idea. How about we not talk about Trump and politics?
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's a
always
great
always
idea.
a good idea. I try to avoid that. Whenever I talk about Trump, the only thing I talk about is the fact that Trump was a fucking idiot. I don't care about the politics. The dude was a fucking idiot. That's all that matters.
Let me remind you something that Trump said before he was president. You're fired.
Yeah, everyone got to say that to him. But if you didn't have a chance to watch Team Skeptic because you're watching me, well, thank you. Then if you want to check out the QAnon stream, he'll have it up on his channel. I think he was talking with Echoplex Media. So go check out Team Skeptic if you get a chance. Then
Dude,
we
he's gonna get a strike. He's gonna get a strike.
Brendan Cuskley for $5 Australian. I love you guys. I hurt because I've been laughing. Please don't hurt yourself, but do continue laughing. Marak Zeonts for 10 PlayStation Network dollars says, grab some of my money for reading my name correct. You have MC Toon to thank for that. He taught me to say your name. Esteban Ilabaka for 1,000 claps says, aren't his claims just simulation theory of angels? Kind of. Syed Ahmed for $4.99 says, felt like the power of Christ compelled me with the amount of attempted preaching in this debate. Thank you very much, Syed. Connell Silver.
Oh, I haven't even begun yet.
I could arrange a theologian type debate for you if you like with one of my
That'd be
followers.
fun. That would be fun. That would be a lot of fun.
J.L.
I
Warren,
love it.
He'd probably be up for that. Connell Silverfur for $2 says Hebrew poetry isn't science. Amen. Coach Platitude, $5. Reds, can't we all just get along? Platitude. Okay, thank you.
Platitude.
The Athens 619 for $2 says, what about ism fucking autocorrect? I know, but we all know what you meant. You didn't need to send any more money. Just refresh that. Make sure I didn't miss any more super chats. You guys are being amazingly generous today. Thank you very much. Last one is from Stephen McFarlane for £5 says, you can see the effect of the left to right curve with ships going over the horizon as not all beaches face the same way. The main reason you can't see left to right is because the horizon is at the same distance all around you. So you wouldn't
like
expect to see that left to right. It's a
Like
cross section of a sphere,
around
which
you,
is
basically.
2D. Yeah. So you would never expect to see that left to right until you got high enough for you to see beyond the boundaries of that circle around you. I also have
myself
two members,
would,
and I want to say thank you to the members, guys. I can't remember who it was. It's not letting me see them. But if you become a member, thank you very much. You can also become a patron at patreon.com/FTFE. I try to release videos early there sometimes. Last super chat was from Rick Sanchez for $2. Just make him show evidence of the dome. You win. Is there a dome?
There's a dome, but it's made of air. It's the top of the air.
I mean, that's kind of what we say, right?
Yeah, yeah.
There's
a lot of
you're like a flat
you know how
earther
they
mixed
say,
with a globe earther. You're confusing.
You know how the flat earthers and myself included in the Bible it says that the firmament is like molten glass. It's hard like molten glass. Well,
Yeah.
I think that that's referring to if you're moving a certain velocity, it's very hard.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, that's going to be it for tonight, guys. I want to say thank you again for everyone coming out. Eftupworld, thank you for coming for the conversation. I think I'd be more than happy to get you back.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Just
I had fun.
any final thoughts before we go?
I just remember when Enoch said that at the end that the whole order of the stars would be concealed by from the sinners. and the thoughts of those on the earth would err concerning the order of the stars, and it would bring in their own they would bring their own destruction upon themselves. So, and I can see a possibility of that happening, and that to me is the sky falling and basically consuming the earth in darkness. You don't have to believe me.
Cool story, bro. Reds, any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. I'm just going to call out talent that may be out there. There is a YouTube channel that I wish to copy. The YouTube channel is called 3 blue, 1 brown, or 1 brown, 3 blue. It's a channel that focuses around mathematics. Anyway, he makes these diagrams that like move, and they clearly show the math that he is explaining. I want to do something like that for a future video. Now, if you guys know how to animate like he does, if you guys know how to make diagrams like he does, if you have those skills, please get in contact with me either on Twitter or contact Fight the Flat Earth. I would like to use your services. So if you know anyone that can make diagrams like him, I would very much like to get in contact with them, and I would very much love to use their services. So please help me out here. But with that, awesome. I got nothing.
All right, and your new video, Reds, was awesome. If you guys haven't seen Red's new video on the channel, released yesterday, showing why Level Earth Observer is a fucking idiot, you know, because he really is, then go and check that out. But that's it for tonight, guys. Thank you very much. Last super chat from Drew P. Wiener for £2 says, great show, FTFE and Reds. I always enjoy watching. Well, I enjoy doing this. But one thing that I have to say that's very, very important. Remember, stupidity is not a right. Fight the flat earth. Fight the flat. Fight the flat. Fight the flat. Fight the flat.